When Shinziyu offered to pick up my college acceptance letter for me, I turned and ran. In my past life, both he and I got in, but Qingyi didn't. Behind my back, he gave the acceptance letter to Qingyi. They went to the capital together for university, started a business, made the papers, and became a couple praised by everyone. When his friends found out I was his real wife, they all complained that I wasn't good enough for him, yet I was still holding him back. They said I was despicable. Even my own son looked down on me for being an embarrassment. At his wedding, he begged me to divorce Shinziyu, just so Qingyi could take the seat of honor. Since dad doesn't love you anymore, why are you still clinging to that position? You're just making everyone unhappy. No, I'll go myself. I shot to my feet. I pushed Shinziyu aside and bolted for the door. A hand clamped down on my arm, yanking me back. I had no choice but to turn around. A flicker of surprise passed through Shin Ziyu's eyes, yet his expression remained concerned. You're still not over your cold. You should have just waited for me at home. Looking at the man who ruined my life, I felt nothing but disgust. And who should know better than him why I caught this cold? I've always had a strong constitution, even with a fever. A good night's sleep and sweating it out would usually do the trick. But this cold came on with a vengeance and stubbornly refused to clear up. In my past life, I always thought I'd caught the cold from kicking off the blankets in my sleep. It wasn't until I lay unconscious in the hospital bed that I heard Shinziyu, holding Qingyi, talk about this particular illness. He was the one who deliberately opened the window to give me a chill, then fed me expired medicine to prolong my sickness, all because he was afraid I'd go with him to the county to check the admission notices. The Shin family lived in Changshui village, a remote location. There was no main road to the county town. One had to trek over mountains and hills for 7 or 8 hours to get there. As a result, people from the county town rarely came down for any matters. The villagers had to go to the county town themselves to inquire. Naturally, to find out whether one had been admitted to university, one also had to go to the county town to ask. In my past life, I didn't go to the county town because I was running a high fever. I trusted Shinziyu completely. Whatever he said, I believed without a doubt. I only blamed myself for not doing well enough on the exams and not being able to attend university with him. On the day Shinziyu left for university, I walked 8 hours on mountain roads, carrying his luggage to the county town. When he boarded the bus, I gave him all the money I had saved, telling him not to skimp on food while he was away. But how did he treat me in return? Thinking of this, I angrily shook off Shinziyu's hand. What's wrong with you today? Shinziyu asked with a puzzled and irritated look. If you're not feeling well, just wait at home. I'm your man, don't you trust me? He gave his mother a meaningful look, and she immediately stepped forward to take my arm. Ningning, it's raining today and the mountain road is treacherous. Let's just wait for Ziyu at home. Dear, I shook off her hand and walked out on my own. Her expression instantly turned frosty. What a waste of money. If you both go to the county town, you'll have to eat, won't you? I said to Shinziyu. Look at the princess you brought home. I was trying to help her, and she still gave me attitude. Her voice was so loud that the neighbors poked their heads out of their houses even without turning around. I could feel the weight of all those strange looks from behind me. I pulled my coat tighter, quickened my pace, and broke into a jog toward the village entrance. Too, Shinziyu and I walked to the post office with stony faces the whole way, neither of us saying a word. Ziyu, you're here. Qingyi suddenly jumped out from the corner, nearly throwing herself into Shinziyu's arms, and only noticed me standing beside him after he pointed me out. Ningning, you're here too. Don't get the wrong idea. I just slipped. Before I could say a word, Shinziyu cleared his throat and said, you're Ningning's best friend. What could she possibly misunderstand? I tilted my head and gave the two of them a once-over. Yes, in my past life, I truly considered Qingyi a sister. She and Shinziyu were neighbors. Last year, her husband got drunk and froze to death in the snow, so she went back to her parents' home. On the day Shinziyu and I got married, she came over early in the morning, bustling about and helping with everything. I appreciated her kindness and felt sorry for her misfortune. I always considered her in everything I did, but in the end, I just became her stepping stone. Shinziyu couldn't look me in the eye. He turned his head away in a panic and shouted toward the post office window, Uncle, have any new college acceptance letters arrived in the last few days? The postman rummaged through a pile of documents and found Shinziyu's admission letter first. Shinziyu beamed with joy, flashing a perfect, 8-tooth smile. Uncle, could you please check if there are any for Qingyi and Qingyining? The postman searched for a few more minutes but still couldn't find them. As he was about to finish looking, Shinziyu grew anxious. He gave me a strange look, lowered his eyes, and muttered, "That can't be right." I got in. I knew exactly what he meant. Of the three of us, I had the best grades and often tutored them. There's no way he got accepted and I didn't. Found it. The last one. The name is Qingyi. The postman's drawn-out voice trailed off, his hands seeming to smooth the paper. "Yes, that's right. It's Qingyi." Shenziyu chimed in eagerly, turning to look at Qingyi with delight. Qingyi's eyes lit up, her breath quickening as she grabbed his hand. "Ziyu, is it mine? Did I really get in?" Shenziyu nodded emphatically. Qingyi was over the moon. She leaped up, wrapping her arms and legs around Shenziyu's waist, and screamed with pure joy. Suddenly, she turned her head to look at me. "Ningning, did you have an off day? It doesn't make sense that we both got in and you didn't. You were our tutor, after all." The next second, the mail carrier held up the admission letters and called out to the three of us, "Who is Qingyi? Do you have your household register? I need to verify it." I swiftly snatched the household register from Shenziyu's hands and passed it over. "Yes, it's yours. You two are amazing. You got the best scores in the whole county." When the city delivered the admission letters, they even praised you both. The moment I held the admission letter in my hands, my eyes welled up. After a lifetime of waiting, I finally have it. In my past life, I didn't get into university. My in-laws looked down on me, and everyone in Changshui village said Shenziyu and Qingyi were the perfect match, and that marrying me was a pity. Shenziyu was taken aback and urged the postman, "Uncle, could you please check again to see if there's one for Qingyi?" "There isn't. There's only one person with the surname Qing, and that was the last one just now." Shenziyu refused to believe it. "How is that possible? Why wouldn't it be possible?" The postman retorted unhappily. "There are only a few admission letters here. How could I have made a mistake?" Shenziyu dragged me into a corner and demanded harshly, "Did you not teach Yi properly back then?" I looked up at him. When Qingyi was studying, she was always complaining about how hard it was. Every time she whined, he would shield her, saying she had learned enough. Now he's suddenly worried. Shenziyu understood the look in my eyes and sheepishly let go of my arm. "Ningning, your grades are better than Yi's. How about you let her have this admission letter? You can take the exam again next year. You might even come out top of the province." Shenziyu sincerely promised to bring me to the capital for university next year. He said he'd go first to scope things out, so when I arrived, he'd be there to help me settle in. Besides, Qingyi lost her husband, and the village gossips never stopped talking about her. If all three of us took the exam and she was the only one who failed, they'd surely say even worse things. "Ningning, you and Yi are like sisters. If you won't help her, who will?" The way Shenziyu always puts Qingyi first just makes me hate him even more. He anticipates every single one of Qingyi's troubles, so why does he turn a blind eye to mine? Qingyi's family is wealthy, her parents dote on her, even her sister-in-law has to give in to her at home. If anyone in the village dares to say a word against her, her mother storms right over to give them a piece of her mind. What kind of hardship could she possibly be facing? And what about me? In my past life, my father-in-law insisted the family had no money and stubbornly refused to let me take the exam, telling me not to make a fuss over nothing. I borrowed money from my parents and hid it in a jar in the corner, but it mysteriously vanished. I later found out that my mother-in-law had fallen and needed care, but my father-in-law didn't want to look after her. If I went off to university, she would become his burden alone. So he stole the money I had borrowed. As I frantically searched for the money, he watched coldly, sneering that I was never meant for college. My place was at home, taking care of him and his wife, and giving them a grandson. Thud. Qingyi suddenly dropped to her knees, clutching the hem of my pants with both hands. She looked up at me, pleading, "Ningning, please, I'm begging you, can you give this year's admission letter to me? I'll be your servant. I'll treat you as my own sister. I promise." I took a step back and coldly uttered two words, "No way." In my past life, Qingyi and Shenziyu held their college acceptance banquets together. Many of the relatives and friends who attended the feast mistook her for Shenziyu's wife. I told Shenziyu about it, but he accused me of being petty and narrow-minded, saying I make a big deal out of every little thing people say and that I can't handle things with grace. After the banquet, Qingyi came to find me. I thought she was there to explain herself, but she wasn't. She was there to twist the knife. They say I'm usually a good student, but I always choke when it really counts. Later, when she and Shenziyu returned from the capital, she gave me 2 pieces of clothing. I had never worn fabric of such quality before and was genuinely grateful to her. I still remember how unusually bright her eyes were at that moment, though I didn't think much of it then. Looking back now, she must have been laughing at me in her heart, pitying me for being such a fool. Blissfully unaware that I had paved the way for her, Shenziyu helped Qingyi up with a pained expression. but the look he gave me was piercingly cold. How can you be so heartless? If the roles were reversed, E would have given you her acceptance letter without a second thought. I never imagined you could be this selfish. Let's get a divorce. He finished speaking but didn't leave, his gaze fixed on me with a stubborn, burning intensity, waiting for me to back down and beg for his forgiveness in my past life. He was always like this too. Whenever he found fault with me, he'd threaten divorce, and I would always give in, because I loved him, and I was terrified he would leave me. He's the child's biological father, a graduate from a prestigious university, and a successful entrepreneur. I felt I had no choice but to try to please him while he was away studying and building his business. I stayed home, caring for his parents, raising our child, and maintaining family ties when his parents fell ill. Our child was bullied, or relatives were being unreasonable. I held everything together alone. I kept telling myself that Shinziyu would be home soon, and then everything would be alright. Yet after all I've done and all the grievances I've endured, it's Shinziyu who ends up with the good reputation. The villagers and relatives all say I'm lucky to have married Shinziyu so young, otherwise, I would never have had a chance with him later on, because he made a fortune and became a successful man. Everyone is proud of him and thinks I'm not good enough for him. I could have had all of this too. It was his malice and treachery that ruined my life. Fine, then let's get a divorce. 3. The moment I said it, a wave of relief washed over me. Holding the acceptance letter, I walked the mountain path alone back to my parents' home. Mom, Ningning, you're back. Mom glanced behind me, and the smile instantly vanished from her face. Did Ziyu not come with you? I rushed forward and hugged her tightly. I knew she was worried about me. It was dark. It had been raining for days, and the mountain road was slippery. If I had slipped or gotten hurt on the way, it would have been terrible. Yet, Shinziyu just let me come back alone. Mom never thought much of Shinziyu from the start. When we started dating, she tried to talk some sense into me, but I was completely smitten with him back then. In the end, it all came crashing down in such a devastating way. Mom, I got into university. I danced around, shoving the acceptance letter into my mom's hands. Mom paused for a moment, her fingers tracing the admission letter with a touch so gentle and soft, as if it were a fragile treasure. She pulled me inside in a hurry and lit the kerosene lamp. In the dim, yellowish light, tears glistened in Mom's eyes. All right, she said, I'll go get your father. During dinner with Mom, Dad, and my younger brother, he kept praising me, and I felt my eyes welling up with tears again. In our past life, when my younger brother found out that Shinziyu and Qingyi were having an affair, he was furious. He went to confront Shinziyu, but ended up getting beaten so badly that he lost an eye. He had already been hired as a bus driver for the county at that time. In the end, he lost his job and his sight in one eye, even though it was always my brother who stepped up whenever his son was sick or needed a father figure to back him up. His own son ended up cruelly taunting him as the one-eyed monster. After this incident, the whole village knew our families had fallen out. To curry favor with Shinziyu, people in the village began to give our family a hard time again and again. Seeing my brother now, with his bright eyes and youthful vigor, my eyes welled up with tears. Sis, don't cry, it's a great day. What are you crying for? I nodded firmly. Okay, I won't cry. Our family will only get better from now on. Dad, I'm here to take Ningning home. Shinziyu came to pick me up, and for once, he was carrying meat and sugar. Last night, I had already told my parents about Shinziyu and Qingyi. When Dad saw Shinziyu, he was about to tell him to get out, but I stopped him. Dad, I'm heading back now. I need to go back and do something, otherwise, how could I ever repay them for scheming against me so viciously in my past life? As Shinziyu and I walked out, he kept glancing sideways at the main hall, at the gifts he had just brought. In the past, whenever he came to our house, my parents would always make us return the things he brought, and they'd even add some extra gifts on top. But this time, his parents said nothing, and he was upset. As soon as they stepped outside, Shinziyu sighed with a bitter smile. Let's go. Mom's got dinner ready at home. We're having taro today. Ah, if only we had some pork ribs to stew with it. So, the pork ribs he brought to our house were actually bought at his mother-in-law's request to stew with the taro. He just brought them by our place as a formality, never expecting our family to break from the usual script. Pork ribs, then. Why didn't you buy more? Shinziyu's face contorted. After a long pause, he finally spoke. Where's your admission letter? Dad wants to take it to the ancestral hall for a couple of days, to show the ancestors. I turned my head to meet his gaze, and he awkwardly looked away. Why are you staring at me like that? There's nothing on my face. I'm asking you, where's the admission letter? I patted my bag. It's in here. Don't worry. The night passed. I got up early and opened the bag. Sure enough, The admission letter inside was gone. I was so frantic I started crying. Ziyu, did you touch my bag? My admission letter is missing. Shen Ziyu walked in from outside with a smile, shot me a glare, and scolded me for not keeping a better eye on the admission letter. How come mine is still here? If you can't even look after something this important, you might as well not go to college at all. Granny chimed in from the side. Exactly. A girl going to college is a waste of time and money. It's much better to stay home and live a comfortable life. I was frantic with worry. Help me look for it, quick. I searched the entire Shin house, unwilling to give up. But the admission letter was still nowhere to be found. Shen Ziyu followed lazily behind me, searching half-heartedly. He seemed to be in a very good mood. Of course he was in a good mood. He knew where the admission letter was. But how could he be so sure everything was under his control? I suppressed the smile that had just begun to form, asking Shen Ziyu in a panic, can the county government reissue the admission letter, or at least provide some kind of official proof I can show the school? Shen Ziyu's expression tightened. He grabbed my arm, his tone cold and unyielding. No reissues. Those are the rules. If everyone acted like you, the whole system would fall apart. 5. I took Shen Ziyu at his word, moping around the house all day, neglecting all chores. No laundry, no cooking, at mealtimes, turning grief into gluttony. Piling most of the dishes into my bowl. After 2 days of this, Shen Ziyu finally couldn't take it anymore. Ningning, I know you're hurting, but you can't just wallow like this. Seeing you like this breaks my heart. Hearing that made me sick. Isn't it just that I don't do any work, so it all falls on him, and he can't take it anymore? My mother-in-law seized the moment to rush in, grabbing my ear. What kind of daughter-in-law are you? Do you expect everyone to treat you like a revered ancestor? Her nails were hard and long. She meant to teach me a lesson and used all her strength. She pinched my ear until it turned red. The skin was scraped raw, and it started to bleed. I jumped up like a madwoman, startled. My mother-in-law stumbled backward and fell. I smashed all the pots and pans in the house, shouting, "You're all bullying me." The commotion was so loud it drew a crowd of villagers. I cried even louder. Ever since I married into this family, I've done it all: washing, cooking, chopping wood, tending the fields. Not a single chore missed, and yet you stole my college acceptance letter to keep me from going to university. The admission letter is right there in the house. Only you people have access to it. Are you trying to tell me it grew legs and walked away? With my sobbing, the blood on my ear, and my disheveled hair, I looked for all the world like someone the Shin family had driven to the brink of madness. The villagers whispered among themselves about the Shin family, and none of what they said was kind. Hearing this, my mother-in-law panicked and cried out in pain. "Oh, my back, it hurts, it hurts." Her voice was trembling and faltering, her finger pointing at me with a shaky hand. She must have been in excruciating pain, only now able to speak, her face deathly pale. Yet, even in such agony, she still had to curse at me. "You little wretch, who knows if you even passed the exam? You're just slandering us on purpose. You're the most scheming one in this whole family." He even mustered the strength to hurl an object at me. I sidestepped, and the object clattered to the floor with a loud crash. Smack. Shen Ziyu suddenly turned and slapped me across the face. He hit me with such force that my head was ringing, and I lost my hearing for a moment. That slap of his silenced the villagers, and their chattering abruptly ceased. Even my mother-in-law stopped crying, coming to her senses. She became unusually excited. "Well done, son. If you don't put her in her place, she'll be climbing onto the roof and tearing off the tiles next." I covered my face and rushed into the kitchen, smashing all the pots and pans, then grabbed a knife and started slashing wildly. My mother-in-law let out a shriek, wailing in distress, but with the knife in my hand, she didn't dare come near me. Shen Ziyu suddenly raised his hand high, thinking he was about to hit me again. I shut my eyes in terror and swung the knife at him, recklessly missed. He disarmed me. I opened my eyes to his hostile glare. I took a fearful step back. He just threw the knife to the ground, took my hand, and asked in an oddly gentle voice, "Are you hurt? I don't understand why someone would act like that. You just slapped me hard, and now you're worried about me." I pulled my hand back. Shen Ziyu stepped forward and held me tightly. "I'm sorry, I was being an idiot just now." The gossipy woman who had been waiting to see a spectacle was dumbfounded. She said sourly, "Weren't you going to hit her? Why the sudden affection?" In this remote mountain village, it was taken for granted that a man could beat his wife, even if the man was in the wrong. The woman wasn't allowed to speak up, or else she'd be asking for a beating. What's more, in their eyes, Shen Ziyu had done nothing wrong. The fault lay with me for being so ungrateful. That gaze brought back memories of my past life. No matter how many times Shen Ziyu hurt me for Qingyi's sake, as long as he served me a bowl of rice or poured me a glass of water, he was a rare and good man. Shen Ziyu let go of me, went over and said something to the villagers, and soon they all dispersed. He came back, sat down in front of me, and even made my mother-in-law apologize to me. I can't quite figure him out. He couldn't have done this out of pity for me, so what's his real motive? 6 in the middle of the night, my mother-in-law suddenly let out a sharp cry from outside. It turned out she had fallen while getting up to use the bathroom. I had thought that in this life, things would unfold differently from the last, and she wouldn't fall, yet she fell all the same. The injuries were even more severe than in my past life. This time, I sat on the bed with a cold gaze, watching my father-in-law and Shinziyu attend to my mother-in-law. After a long and exhausting ordeal, the Shin household finally settled into quietude. Close to dawn the next day, Ching Yining, my sister-in-law, Shin Mei, yanked the covers off and dragged me to my mother-in-law's bedside. How can you possibly sleep in this late when my mother is lying here, hurt like this? I stared right back at her. You said it yourself, she's your mother, her stomach's growling with hunger, as her own daughter. Do you not know where the kitchen is? Or are you just incapable of cooking? Shinmei was taken aback. What happened to you? What happened to me? In my past life, I treated Shinmei like my own sister. When she had conflicts with her mother-in-law during her postpartum confinement, it was me who went to take care of her. When she argued with her husband, I was the one who stood up for her. But in the end, she actually supported Shinziyu and Qingyi being together. She gave me $10, telling me to do the decent thing and stop pestering Shinziyu. $10. Ziyu, has she lost her mind? Shinmei asked Shinziyu in disbelief. Shinziyu didn't say a word. He handed the meal to his grandmother and let her eat by herself. When it's her own son, my mother-in-law knows how to show concern. She just picks up the bowl and eats without a fuss. In my past life, when I was taking care of her, she insisted she was in so much pain she couldn't even hold chopsticks and demanded I feed her. I'd hold my hand up to feed her for ages while she refused to open her mouth. The moment my arm got sore and I lowered it, she'd start wailing that I looked down on her, that I didn't want to serve her, and threatened to write to Shinziyu to make him divorce me. Back then, I was truly terrified that Shinziyu would abandon me. Ever since he went off to college, I felt inferior and unworthy of him. Hearing my mother-in-law say that only made me more afraid. But now, I can't wait for us to get divorced. Shinziyu whispered a few words to Shinmei, and she obediently went to make lunch. During the meal, she even offered me a formal apology. 7 On the day of Shinziyu's college acceptance celebration, even with a cane, his grandmother insisted on bringing young women to see him. Among them were not only girls from the countryside, but even female relatives from the city. Several of them blushed with shyness. His grandmother was absolutely delighted. She only stopped what she was doing, and with great reluctance, after Shinziyu shot her a glare. Aren't you upset that mom is acting this way? Don't you have anything to say? Shinziyu suddenly asked me. I spat out the rib I was chewing on. Even if I'm upset, do you think she'll stop? You could have talked to me. I cut him off. What's the point? Shinziyu fell silent. That night, Shinziyu gave all the gift money to my mother-in-law and said to me, I'm leaving tomorrow. If you need money, just ask mom for it. Men are really something else. If he really wanted to give me money, he could have just given it to me directly. He knows perfectly well that his mother wouldn't give me a single cent if he weren't around. He sees the situation for what it is. Yet he still feeds me these high-sounding excuses. The next day, before leaving, Shinziyu leaned down and kissed my forehead. Mom hurt her back. Keep an eye on her at home for me. So, his tenderness before leaving was just to make sure I'd take good care of his mother at home. Otherwise, he wouldn't have suddenly tried to placate me. A few casual words of comfort, and he gets me to look after his parents at home, freeing him up to study and date in peace elsewhere. What a bargain for him. The moment Shinziyu walked out the door, I immediately took out a handkerchief and scrubbed hard where he had kissed me. She's his mother, not mine. Why on earth should I be the one taking care of her? Mealtime, my mother-in-law was demanding to eat this and that, but refused to give any money. Ziyu must have given you money yesterday. Hurry up and go buy groceries to cook. Don't tell me you're planning to take it to subsidize your own family. Have you no shame? I obediently went out. As I slammed the wooden door shut, I could still hear my mother-in-law's smug, muffled cursing seeping out from inside the house. But I wasn't going out to buy groceries for her. I went back to my parents' home, packed my bags, and boarded a train bound for the capital. 8 The new student welcome station at Capital Normal University. Ningning, what are you doing here? Shinziyu's eyes widened in shock. He pulled me away angrily. Weren't you supposed to stay home and look after mom and dad? What about them now that you're here? You didn't even get in, wasting all that money on a ticket to come here. Have you lost your mind? Once we reached a quiet corner, Shinziyu angrily shook off my hand. I used to be scared and backed down whenever he got angry. Does he think now that if he just gets mad, I'll obediently come home. If you can come, why can't I? You. Shinziyu flew into a rage, but he had only gotten one word out when he saw Ching-yi run over, crying as she said to him, "Ziyu, that acceptance letter is fake. The one from Capital Normal University doesn't look like that." Sob. What do I do? What am I going to do? Ching-yi finally discovered the truth that night when I went back to my parents' house. I forged a fake admission letter and slipped it into the envelope meant for the real one. I put my heart and soul into it. The fake letter looked impeccable. Even the official seal appeared genuine. Ching-yi never suspected a thing. After sobbing for a moment, Ching-yi noticed me. Shocked and terrified, she stammered, "Ching-yi-ning, you, what are you doing here? Here for university, aren't you?" Her face paled. "You know already." I shot back. "Know what? Stop playing dumb," she snapped, furious and embarrassed, turning to Shinziyu. "Ziyu, the admission letter must be on her. Quick, help me get it back." With tears welling in her eyes, Ching-yi looked pitiful and vulnerable. "I want to go to university, Ziyu. This was our shared dream. If I go back like this, my father will beat me to death." Her tears softened Shinziyu's heart. He reached out to snatch my bag. "Ning-ning, just give the admission letter to E. Having one university student in our family is enough," I scoffed. "Then I'll go, and you can go back home with her. If anyone in the village talks, you'll be in it together. You can even share the pressure for her." "That's unacceptable. I'm going to be a university student." "Oh, so you do understand that studying is important, and being a college student is great, Ziyu." Ching-yi hinted for him to just grab it. "Little brother, I'm over here." Shinziyu wasn't as tall or sturdy as my brother. Hearing my call, he instinctively turned to look, and I seized the chance to slip over to the volunteer and hand them my college acceptance letter. Shinziyu realized he'd been tricked and was furious, but the admission letter had already been handed to the volunteer. Ching-yi had missed her chance. He walked up to me and snarled, "I won't give you a single cent for living expenses, not one. Who wants your money?" With no university to attend and refusing to go home, Ching-yi left Shinziyu heartbroken. He rented an apartment for her outside so she could live in peace for the first month. Shinziyu had enough money to pay the rent and cover Ching-yi's living expenses, but by the second month, his wallet couldn't take it anymore. This was because Ching-yi was always trying to keep up with the university students in the capital, not only indulging in fine food and drink but also wanting to wear all the latest fashionable clothes. When Shinziyu suggested she go out and find a job, Ching-yi lashed out, calling him useless for not even being able to support his own woman. She even belittled him, saying he was worse than a local hoodlum and that she should date one instead. This infuriated Shinziyu so much that he hit her. Ching-yi was deeply upset by it all. At the slightest disagreement, the two of them would come to blows. However, a woman's physical strength is no match for a man's, and Ching-yi was ultimately defeated. Nevertheless, Shinziyu gave up on the idea of letting Ching-yi go out to work, unwilling to admit he was inferior to those hoodlums. He took on a frantic number of part-time jobs outside of class, often skipping meals. He would space out during lectures and was called out by the professor several times for falling asleep. Shinziyu didn't care about mere reprimands or token punishments, so he just kept on doing it. A person's energy is limited, and for every dollar he earned, Ching-yi would find a way to spend it. If Shinziyu refused to give her money, she'd start yelling that he was worse than a deadbeat. To preserve his dignity as a man, Shinziyu had no choice but to fork over the money, seething with resentment. 3 months later, winter break began. Shinziyu, Ching-yi, and I got off the train one after another and ran into each other at the station. When I saw Shinziyu, I couldn't believe my eyes and rubbed them in disbelief. He was now thin and dark, with weary eyes and unkempt hair, looking as if he hadn't been to university but had spent 3 months digging coal. Shinziyu's eyes flickered when he saw me. Ching-yi suddenly stepped in front of him and snapped at me. "What are you staring at? What are you doing?" Shinziyu pulled her aside and greeted me with a smile. "Ning-ning." I turned and ran. This clearly wasn't going to end well, but as we were leaving the station, we ran into each other again. Zhang Lianhua came to pick up Shinziyu herself. Seeing him thinner and darker, her heart ached so much she started sobbing, constantly wiping her tears and insisting she was going to fatten him up. She turned and glared at me. "You ran off to the capital and didn't even know how to look after your own man. What kind of wife are you? We're going home to eat meat, and there's none for you. Get lost and go back to your own place." Just as Shinziyu was about to stop Zhang Lianhua, I shot back, "Who wants to go to your house anyway? I never intended to go to the Shin family's place. In the first place, the whole reason I came back this time is to finalize the divorce. I didn't want to leave with them, so I stayed put and waited for my brother to pick me up. I brought back quite a few things from the capital. There's no way I can carry them all by myself. Sis, my brother and dad arrived. they carried all the heavy things, leaving me with just a small bag at the village entrance. Mom came out to greet us. Why did you buy so much stuff? You need to eat well while you're studying, or you won't get proper nutrition. Next time, don't save your money just to bring all this home. I guess in a parent's eyes, their children are always too thin. As soon as we got home, Mom busied herself setting the table, placing most of the meat dishes right in front of me. Mom put a piece of pork knuckle in my bowl. Eat up, have some more. How did you get so thin? Mom, I haven't lost weight. I've actually gained some, really. And I didn't buy these things by scrimping and saving. I bought them with my own money. I bought a set of fleece-lined thermal underwear and a padded coat for each of my parents and my younger brother. Mom's wrinkled hand gently brushed over the coat before she pushed it back into my arms. I already have a winter coat. This one is warm and light. It won't weigh you down. You keep it for yourself. Mom was lying. The so-called cotton jacket she had was made of poor quality stuffing. It was heavy, provided no warmth, and felt stiff and cold when worn. Mom, I bought one for myself too. I picked this one out especially for you. After much persuasion, Mom finally accepted it. Only then did she take a proper look at the fabric's pattern, praising my good taste and saying she really liked this kind of design. The house was filled with a joyful atmosphere. I knew all my hard work had been worthwhile. The next day, my younger brother and I went into town to buy New Year's goods. To our surprise, as soon as we reached the village entrance, a villager shouted for us to hurry home, saying something had happened at our house. In the main hall, my father held his hand over my mother's head, blood streaming down his arm and soaking a large patch of her clothes. Meanwhile, my grandmother stood with her hands on her hips, showering them with furious, spittle-flecked curses. If it hadn't been for the villagers holding her back, she might have lunged forward to beat my mother again. Smack! I dropped the New Year's goods and charged over, kicking my mother-in-law. She let out a sharp cry, nearly toppling over before Shinzyu caught her. Ning Ning, you're back, he said, his eyes lighting up with surprise as he moved to take my hand. I grabbed the nearby rolling pin and whacked him with it. My mother-in-law grabbed at me frantically, shrieking, my son gave you face, and you dare hit him, you shameless, worthless woman. You brought back so many things from the capital. Did some man on the outside buy them for you? Why didn't you bring them back to the Shin family? Oh, so the reason for all this commotion today is because you want the things I bought a few days ago. Rumors started spreading in the village out of nowhere, saying I was seeing a rich man on the side and cheating on Shinzyu. I don't even need to think to know who started them. I was just thinking of going over there today to deal with this, but I never expected the Shin family to come knocking on my door first. Which is it? Am I the one keeping a man on the side? Or is it your son who's fooling around out there? Don't you know the truth? Did you really not know when my admission letter went missing? Don't think I didn't see you counting the money, grinning from ear to ear. I bought these things myself, with money I earned by writing articles with my professor and tutoring students. Did you think I was like your son, skipping classes in the capital every day just to chase after women? If you're saying my money is dirty, you're insulting Teacher Xing. I remember Teacher Xing also teaches at Shinzyu school. You just wait and see. Pfft. As if someone like you has any real connection to a teacher. Shinziyu's face instantly paled. He grabbed Zhang Lianhua's arm. Mom, just stop talking. Seizing the moment, I brought up divorce. Shinziyu refused to back down. Ning Ning, I know you're furious right now, and I can apologize. I'll change all my past mistakes. Can't we just move on and have a good life together? Teacher Xing is famously talented and incredibly well connected. If he could get in with him, everyone else would be coming to him for favors. What man doesn't stray? We've all been there. Ziyu has already apologized, so stop putting on airs. Shinigua cleared his throat twice, speaking up for his son as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Shinziyu, honey, I said I want a divorce. Are you deaf? Or else, when the record of you and Qingyi going to the hospital ends up at the school, don't expect me to cover for you. Shinziyu jerked his head up. How do you know that? Not only do I know, I have proof. Shinziyu snapped with a fierce tone. Fine, let's get a divorce. Don't you dare regret it. Zhang Lianhua jumped in. You're the one who did wrong, and now you want a divorce. You have to compensate my son, and for the 2 years you've lived with the Shin family, you need to pay up. She did a quick calculation and made an outrageous demand. You have to give us 50,000 yuan, or this isn't over. Zhang Lianhua actually had the nerve to ask for that much. In these times, any family with 500 yuan to their name was considered well off. Shinziyu, you don't think that too, do you? How about this? You give me 50,000, otherwise, I sneered, my voice laced with threat. Shinziyu's face darkened. He grabbed Zhang Lianhua's arm, trying to pull her away. Stop, we're not done here. You still haven't answered for hitting my mother today. Zhang Lianhua opened her mouth to curse again, but Shen Ziyu clamped his hand over it. Shen Ziyu fished out 50 cents from his pocket. Go buy some medicine to stop the auntie's bleeding. Zhang Lianhua was quick. She snatched the money away. Why should we give them money? She'd be better off dead. I'd had enough. I rushed over, grabbed Zhang Lianhua's head, and slammed it against the wall several times with force. Her head was bleeding. It's about the same as my mom's wound. Perfect. You can keep the 50 cents. Zhang Lianhua clutched her head, sat on the ground in a huff, and wailed. 50 cents, you owe me 500, I'm not leaving until you pay up. Shenigua hopped about, yelling at me, is that any way to treat your elder? I looked up at Shenziyu, not leaving. Shenziyu practically dragged the two of them away. 11 After the New Year's celebrations, it was time for the new semester. While walking the mountain road to the county town, Shenziyu fell and hit his head on a rock, landing him in the county hospital for several days. My younger brother just laughed and said it was Shenziyu's comeuppance. Half a month later, Shenziyu showed up at Capital Normal University, specifically to corner me. Have you lost your mind? I asked. He sneered. Qing Yining, you brainless, clueless fool of a woman. His attitude was completely different from before. His eyes held arrogance and insolence. Don't tell me, he's been reborn too. My heart clenched. How could a scumbag like him get a second chance? Security guard, he's not from our school, and he came in here to threaten me. The security guard rushed over and pinned Shenziyu down. No matter what Shenziyu said, he wouldn't believe it, which infuriated Shenziyu into cursing and swearing non-stop. Even as he was being thrown off campus, he still managed to threaten. Fine, Qing Yining, you just wait and see. I asked someone to help me find out what Shenziyu had been saying and doing these past few days. Sure enough, in front of his classmates, he stopped being meek and submissive and became aggressive and overbearing. My hunch was right. To prevent Shenziyu from pulling any shady moves, I had someone tail him the whole time. I waited for days, but he made no move at all. Logically speaking, after taking a loss like that, he was bound to come looking for trouble with me. Turns out he's having a falling out with Qingyi, so he doesn't have time to bother me. In her past life, Qingyi had never known hardship. She went to university with him, educated, gentle, the very image of an unattainable ideal. Shenziyu was more than happy to be with her, but now, Qingyi didn't go to college, hangs out with troublemakers, and doesn't take care of herself like she used to. Shenziyu finds it embarrassing. She's no longer a match for him. Qingyi thought Shenziyu had treated her that way because he was coming to see me. She stormed over to pick a fight with me, and things escalated. In the end, Shenziyu came and dragged her away. On the way, he slapped her several times, knocking out several of her teeth. It's said that after losing her teeth, Qingyi was furious. That night, while Shenziyu was drunk, she took a piece of red-hot charcoal and pressed it against his face. Although Shenziyu was rescued later, his face was completely ruined. His entire face was left pitted, scarred, and uneven. He lost his hair too, looking like a monster. Qingyi was both disgusted and terrified by Shenziyu's current state. She tried to run away, but was caught, beaten severely, tied up, and abused at home. When this came to light, the school authorities called Shenziyu in for a talk. In her desperation to escape, Qingyi revealed that Shenziyu had forced her and made her go to the hospital for an abortion. Upon hearing this, the school leaders were utterly shocked. In the end, Shenziyu was expelled. On the day he dropped out, he ran like a madman to Capital Normal University, shouting at the top of his lungs that he would make it big and that I'd regret it for the rest of my life. I thought he was finally going to put his talents to use and start a business. I watched for a few days as he went to see his teachers, classmates, and business partners from his past life, trying to cut deals with them, but no one gave him the time of day. I breathed a silent sigh of relief. Thank goodness Shenziyu hadn't caught on yet. 12 1 month later, dressed in a brand new suit and carrying a folder, Shenziyu strode into a factory with an air of absolute confidence. He demanded to speak to the technical manager, claiming to possess the very technology they were after. Yet, not long after, he emerged looking utterly dejected and defeated. He visited several more factories in a row, each time entering with high hopes only to leave in low spirits. So it turns out, I really am smarter than Shenziyu. The technology he's presenting now was his pride and joy in his past life. However, I improved upon his work and, beating him to the punch, submitted the enhanced technology to the state. All these factories can now acquire the technology from the government. It's cheaper and more reliable than getting it from Shenziyu. After that, I focused on my studies and worked on projects with my professors, and I never saw Shenziyu or Qingyi in the capital again. The year I graduated, I had already made a name for myself, with my own brand and company. On the day I returned to my hometown to bring my parents to the capital, I found out they had gotten married. After the wedding, they fought every day and night, tormenting each other. They went at each other with a vengeance. One ended up a crippled, one-eyed wreck, the other a handless deaf-mute. On the day Qingyi took a cleaver to Shenziyu's leg, Shenigua was literally driven to his grave with rage, while Zhang Lianhua was left paralyzed by a stroke, clinging to life in the desperate hope of holding a grandchild. As they told me the story, my parents shuddered with relief, saying how fortunate it was that I had left the Shen family in time, or I would have been utterly broken by the torment. Yes, I'm fortunate to have a second chance. Story 2. In our past life, Jiang He and I spent half a century together. On his deathbed, he whispered to me, Li Tang, how I wish it had been Li Tao who saved me from the snow that day, not you. In our next life, I want to hold Li Tao's hand and grow old together, me, then hurry up and die. Jiang He's eyes remained wide open. He literally died from rage. All the children resented me for quarreling with Jiang He. He passed away with a heart full of regrets. I shut down every single one of those so-called filial descendants at the funeral with sharp retorts. Eldest son, remember when you needed money to buy a house for your wedding? Know why the family funds suddenly dried up? Because your father sent all our savings back to his hometown to relocate the grave of his eternal flame. Second son, remember how you wanted your father's job back then? Know why you never got it? Because he gave it to his childhood sweetheart's nephew. Some distant acquaintance's kid meant more to him than his own flesh and blood. Little sister, ever wonder why father insisted you marry that old friend's son? Because he was the eldest nephew of his first love. I scattered Jiang He's diaries across the funeral hall. Pages fluttered like startled birds between swaying white mourning banners. The children stood there utterly dumbfounded. Don't believe me? Pick it up and see for yourself. One by one, Jiang He took our children to memorialize his long-lost white moonlight. Though I'd saved his life, Jiang He manipulated me into slaving away for him my entire existence. I collapsed in sorrow and never woke again. Who could have known? The next moment I opened my eyes, I was transported back to that winter when I was 19. Qinghe village nestled in the northern mountain hollow. 1. Lintang, I really like that hair tie you bought today. Just give it to me, won't you? The 18-year-old, charming Li Tao lounged comfortably atop the haystack behind the mule cart. I asked coldly while steering the cart, just because I own something you like, does that mean I have to give it to you? Li Tao retorted bluntly, hasn't it always been this way? You're just a tall, dark country bumpkin, it wouldn't look half as good on you. Why not just give it to me? Your spineless father can't even muster a fart after 3 beatings. Doesn't he love groveling to mine? Finally, she burst into giggles, spotting Jiang He nearly buried in the snowdrift. I cracked the whip harder, sending the mule cart careening down the road. Deal, I'll deliver that backstabbing Jiang He right to your doorstep. Li Tao, sitting at the back of the mule cart, slipped off with a thud. She tumbled right into Jiang He, who was curled up like a frozen snowball. Ah, help, there's a dead body. Tao, hold on, I'm running back to the village for help. My booming voice echoed across the snow-blanketed land. The biting wind crept down my throat and chilled me to the core. Damn, it's freezing out here. In my past life, I'd spent most of my years in the south. It had been ages since I last returned to my hometown to experience this frozen wilderness. The villagers quickly rescued Jiang He and Li Tao from the snow. Li Tang, you're asking for death. How dare you leave me with that corpse? Li Tao stomped her feet and threw a tantrum at me in front of everyone. The village chief's wife passed by, deliberately turning a blind eye. The village chief was even more concerned about the rescued educated youth's condition. Everyone present considered it a perfectly ordinary matter simply because Li Tao's father was the village chief and she was the village belle. She carried herself with an air of superiority all her life. She'd only be happy if I fawned over her, so now I'm the bad guy for not spoiling her. The barefoot doctor emerged from the house. He signaled to the village chief. The patient was saved. Li Tao clicked her tongue in disapproval. He's alive, and didn't even get frostbite. The village chief glared at her. That's an educated youth from the farm, show some respect. Li Tao was the village chief's late-life daughter, spoiled rotten like the apple of his eye. Even without much empathy, the village chief didn't scold her. I can see Jiang He and Li Tao's red threads of fate are entwined. Didn't even bother saying goodbye before heading home too. On this day in my past life, Li Tao and I were supposed to go to town for the festivities. On the way back to the village with the mule cart, Li Tao spotted someone half buried in the snow from a distance. She cursed the bad luck, running into a frozen corpse right after leaving home. It was only because I ignored her protests and went to investigate that Jiang He's life was saved. Jiang He later recuperated at my place. Outwardly, he showed gratitude toward me, but secretly, he'd already developed feelings for Li Tao, who kept visiting. When I learned Jiang He was an educated youth from the city, his refined manners gave me an intellectual's admiration for him. After recovering from his illness, Jiang He frequently returned to visit the village. Back then, I genuinely thought he came looking for me. Only later did I learn from his diary that he was actually hoping to run into Li Tao. That same October, the national college entrance exams suddenly resumed after a 10-year hiatus. Jiang He took the college entrance exam with utmost seriousness. I became deeply invested in it as well. I helped gather study materials, mend his winter clothes, and seek information about the exam. These efforts ultimately enabled Jiang He to enter the examination hall without a hitch. Jiang He accepted all my acts of kindness without hesitation, yet in his diary, he secretly vowed to propose to Li Tao at the village chief's house after getting into university later on. True to his word, Jiang He passed the university entrance exam. He became that 1 in 10,000 college-bound student. In the end, the village chief's family arranged for Li Tao to marry into a county household at an early age. Everyone on the farm knew about the help I'd given him. Pressured by circumstances, Jiang He had no choice but to marry me. After the wedding, when he went off to college, I waited for him back in our village. After he got assigned to a city job, I left my hometown and family to stand by his side, taking care of him even when he offended his superiors. I still managed to smooth things over for him, and when he made the bold decision to quit his government job and venture 1,000 miles south to start anew, I was the one who emptied our family's savings to give him the confidence to pursue his dreams, assuring him I'd hold down the fort. We've weathered life's storms together for decades. I never had the slightest clue Jiang He had someone else in his heart. At every triumphant moment thereafter, Jiang He would write sentiments like, "Had Li Tao not passed so young, how joyous I'd be with her by my side." He spent his whole life mourning Li Tao while I was just the spare tire he settled for out of duty and necessity. 3. Sis, aren't you freezing? Get inside already. My teenage brother Lidi stood shivering, holding up the heavy curtain as he waited for me to enter. Long-departed loved ones suddenly reappeared just as I remembered them. The winter wind instantly froze the glistening in my eyes into an ice crystal. It was chilling, yet heartwarming. I saw my parents after what felt like ages. I went up and gave each of them a warm hug. My mom brushed me aside. My dad said in alarm, "Sweetheart, don't pull this stunt, it's downright creepy." After I entered the room, grabbing a small mirror to check her reflection, her weathered face had a reddened nose from the cold, with thick brows and large eyes. A strikingly handsome face. I've actually gotten younger, Li Di asked. "Sis, what are you preening for?" I asked naively. "Between me and Tao, she's the prettier one, right?" Li Di covered his face with his hands. "Of course Sister Tao's prettier, doesn't the whole village say so?" Though Li Tao was spoiled and willful, her beauty was renowned across 8 villages. So what if I saved Jiang He's life? It still can't compete with the irresistible allure of an unattainable first love in this lifetime. I'll let Jiang He have his way. Whether he ends up with Li Tao or not depends entirely on his own efforts, for in this lifetime, Jiang He found salvation in the village chief's household. The moment he opened his eyes, whether from overwhelming emotion or something else, Jiang He seized Li Tao's hand and pressed it against his own cheek. He kept muttering all sorts of bewildering things. Li Tao taught him a lesson with a stinging slap. "What the hell? I saved you out of kindness, and you dare take liberties the moment you wake up." Li Tao kept ranting non-stop, but in Jiang He's eyes, Li Tao was just like a feisty little wildcat. Even her angry huffs looked utterly adorable. "Peach, I've finally found you." Jiang He even wept with emotion when Li Tao's mother entered. She assumed Jiang He was crying because Li Tao had hit him. Later, we heard Jiang He worked as the farm's accountant. He traveled through nearby villages, crossing mountains and rivers just to complete the household registrations. Li Tao looked much better now. In her eyes, accountants were simply money handlers. "Fine, considering you nearly froze to death, I'll let it slide this time. Got it, Tao." Li Tao's mother looked absolutely livid. She pressured the village chief to send Jiang He away immediately. "A young man in his 20s shouldn't be getting handsy with your daughter, even if he's half asleep." When properly groomed, the refined and dashing Jiang He would make anyone's eyes light up in admiration. The village chief understands the impact of college entrance exam policies far better than us ordinary folks. Sitting down with Jiang He again, listening to his measured speech and familiarity with farm and commune leadership, a gut instinct to place early bets began forming. 5. I wasn't surprised to hear the village chief wanted Jiang He as a live-in son-in-law. After all, Jiang He's education, eloquence, and looks made him stand out among the male-educated youth at the farm. Compared to those frivolous suitors constantly buzzing around Li Tao in the village, he's in a completely different league. Not to mention, Jiang He had previously fabricated an impressive network of connections from the commune to county officials after our family saved him completely dazzling my father in this lifetime. Jiang He and the village chief probably said pretty much the same things. Naturally, it triggered the village chief's first come, first served mentality. Li Tao came to see me several times. She kept rambling in front of me, talking endlessly about Jiang He. Seeing that I wasn't responding, she deliberately said, "Tang, we grew up together. If I get married before you, would you be upset?" I tried my best to humor Li Tao's thoughts. "Your family is well off, and you're beautiful, of course you'll have no trouble finding a husband. I'd like to stay home a few more years to take care of my parents." But Li Tao still couldn't resist teasing me. "Well, of course, I'm marrying the most famous educated youth accountant in the whole countryside. As for you, let's just say you're not exactly easy on the eyes. Maybe in a few years when all the village boys have picked their brides and there's no one left, they might finally consider you." Li Tao burst into another fit of giggles. Seeing I couldn't argue back, she left with a smug flourish of the curtain. "Li Tao and I grew up together. She's always been the flashy, show-off type. Whenever she gets something new, she can't wait to flaunt it and make everyone jealous. If you don't humor her, she'll hold a grudge and make your life miserable." Only after Li Tao left the courtyard did I fish out a history-geography reference book from the Kong. Li Di was peeking around the outer room. "Is Sister Tao gone, sis? You should marry an educated man someday." I scoffed at the idea. "What's the point of marrying an intellectual? Might as well become one yourself." "True, what's Sister Tao showing off about? She just married some educated youth after all." "Me, just wait till after New Year's, then you'll see why she's showing off." Li Di didn't get it, staring blankly at the study materials in my hands, couldn't even recognize half the words on the cover, wore the exact same dumbfounded expression as Baoqiang checking his bills. What the hell is this even saying? In this era, the general literacy level was quite low among the population. That's why the first reinstated college entrance exams were made significantly easier compared to later versions. In my past life, constrained by practical limitations, I shied away from taking the exams myself and instead supported Jiang He's college preparations. My whole life practically revolved around Jiang He, like he was the center of my universe. And you know what? Jiang He never even gave it a second thought. He actually had the nerve to think he's the reason I lived a good life. My wife came from dirt poor peasant stock, fussy over trivialities yet clueless about real priorities. If I hadn't gotten into college and built my business down south, with a mother like yours, you'd still be plowing fields in some backwater village. Men fight for dignity as gods fight for incense. I'll prove I can make my life flourish spectacularly. Jiang He or no Jiang He. 6. After registering for the college entrance exams, I went to the state-run photo studio in the county town to take my ID photo for the exam admission ticket. Never imagined the town could be this small. Out of nowhere, I ran into Li Tao and Jiang He again. Li Tang, the radiant Li Tao, stood gracefully in the middle of the street. Her presence created a striking contrast against the heavily bundled crowd and the drab urban surroundings. In modern terms, she was undoubtedly the most dazzling presence on the entire block. It suddenly dawned on me why Li Tao could linger in Jiang He's heart for a lifetime. What I saw as ordinary beauty became an eternally breathtaking memory that dazzled his years. I was about to speak, but immediately furrowed my brow, because Jiang He stood just 3 paces behind Li Tao, laden with bundles large and small. In his past life, Jiang He juggled his day job with exam prep right before the college entrance exams. He worked like a perpetually running engine, practically steaming from exhaustion. This lifetime's about winning his beauty's heart. Now he's not the least bit anxious. "Tang, what brings you to town today?" Li Tao had already made her way through the crowd and stood before me. Her eyes crinkled into crescents when she spotted the photo envelope from the studio in my hand. "What's with the studio visit?" "No special occasion. Planning to use these for matchmaking." "Yep, this is for the matchmaking," I admitted readily, tucking the photo envelope into my breast pocket. Li Tao gave me an amused once-over with that half-smile of hers. "If you're in such a hurry to get married, why come to the county? Don't tell me your family arranged county matchmaking for you." Just then, Jiang He came panting up behind us. Li Tao introduced me with a sarcastic tone. "Jiang He, this is that childhood friend I told you about, Li Tang. She's the one who threw me off her mule cart back then. Lucky for me the snow was thick, otherwise I'd have been." I cut her off. "Li Tao, if you hadn't taken that embarrassing fall back then, would this guy be chasing after you like this now?" Li Tao choked on her words, scrambling to save face. "Then I'd say every cloud has a silver lining. Look, this is Jiang He, the educated youth I rescued. We're getting married by year's end." I stared at this pale, refined male educated youth before me, still feeling a pang of resentment in my chest. "Congratulations to you both." I meant to exchange just a few pleasantries before making a quick exit. Unexpectedly, several educated Youths from Jianghe's farm spotted him and came over to say hello. One male youth grinned. Comrade Li Tang, you're the only female high school student from Qinghe village registered for the college entrance exams. Do you have enough study materials? Feel free to come study with us at the farm when you're free. 7. The words hung in the air. Jianghe's gaze at me was full of curiosity and shock. Li Tao's eyes widened even more. Li Tang, you signed up for the college entrance exams. The clueless male educated youth. Yeah, we registered together at the enrollment office today. I repeatedly confirmed with the male educated youth that I was genuinely applying for the exam. Li Tao spared no effort in belittling me. Li Tang, why are you taking the college entrance exam? A country bumpkin like you. Do you really think you can pass? This is absolutely ridiculous. Several educated youths couldn't help but frown. Comrade, must you be so harsh with your words? The papers clearly state anyone qualified can take the exam. What's so funny about that? Since when can't country folks take tests? Weren't you a farmer too? Li Tao had never been ganged up on like this before. Her face flushed and paled alternately before she finally took out all her anger on Jianghe. Jianghe, they all ganged up on me. Why didn't you say a single word to defend me? Jianghe remained frozen in shock, staring at me without moving a muscle. His reaction told me everything I needed to know. Jiang He had been reborn. Li Tao hurled the gift on the floor straight at Jianghe. She turned and stormed off in a huff. Only then did Jianghe snap out of it. He seemed to have something to tell me, but with several educated youths present, he hesitated briefly before grabbing his things to chase after the already distant Li Tao. The educated youths shook their heads and murmured among themselves. We've heard of communes barring people from college entrance exams based on family background, but this is the first time I've heard peasant children being denied registration. Jianghe's partner is so domineering. Look how he's constantly hovering around her, tiptoeing on eggshells. Living together in the educated youth dormitory is going to be a nightmare. A sense of threat crept into my heart. Jianghe must have figured out I was reborn when I signed up for the college entrance exams. That ungrateful bastard, who knows what he'll pull next. And then there's Li Tao. Since she didn't get to mock me today, I bet she'll stir up trouble back in the village. Should've checked the almanac before leaving today. 8. On the road back to the village, I sat on the mule cart, listening to the wheels creak along the snow-covered winding mountain path. It takes 3 to 5 hours on foot to cover the 10-plus kilometer journey from the village to the county town. Qinghe village is desperately poor and remote. If this village held any real promise, would generations of my family have remained dirt-poor farmers stuck in these mountain hollows this lifetime? If Jianghe gets into college, he'll take Li Tao with him. They'll have academic success and marital bliss. What about me? Should I remarry some supposedly promising man and just wait for him to work hard enough to pull me out of this mess? Wouldn't that mean gambling my entire life on another man's conscience rather than pinning my hopes on yet another man? I'd rather grit my teeth and fight my own way out through the college entrance exams. My parents eventually found out about my college entrance exam registration. They're all simple, honest farmers. They don't understand how times are changing, and they're reluctant to let me take risks. Tang, you only had one proper year of high school. What made you think of taking the exam? With so many educated youth taking the test, do you really think you stand a chance? Clutching my books, I muttered under my breath. Comparison kills joy and breeds discontent. For no one else but myself, I must change my ways. There were no study guides or reference materials, yet I somehow managed to grasp the entire high school curriculum. Night and day I'd scribble on the Kong, mumbling and reciting without pause. My parents watched me driving myself into the ground. They thought Li Tao's marriage had sent me over the edge. Should we ask someone to start looking for potential matches? Fine, I'll go ask my brother about it tomorrow. 9. I've stopped going out altogether, trying my best to avoid Li Tao and Jianghe, but Li Tao clearly isn't willing to let things between us slide. She came to my house again, wearing a brand new red jacket. See this? Jianghe just bought it for me. This was the prettiest one at the whole supply co-op, cost quite a few ration coupons too. Everyone says it looks good on me. I couldn't be bothered with her, just waiting for her tantrum to end so I could leave. Li Tao looked at the books scattered across the Kong, and her spoiled princess temper flared up again. She grabbed one at random and tore it in half with a single motion. I told you to study. In the blink of an eye, over a dozen pages were torn from the most crucial review textbook. I tried to stop it, but it was too late. I only managed to salvage half the book. Li Tao kept tearing the textbook while declaring triumphantly, so you just want to get ahead, to surpass me someday, maybe even marry some educated youth while you're at it. Listen carefully. I forbid it. Finally, with deliberate flourish, countless paper scraps fluttered down before me. Like divine blossoms, snap, my raised palm landed squarely on Li Tao's fair, delicate cheek with perfect precision, but the door curtain was suddenly flung aside. Jiang He burst in covered in snow, seizing my right wrist and slamming me against the wall. My right wrist cracked violently against the wall. A stabbing pain shot through me. The howling wind and snow came rushing in. It's freezing. Peach, you alright? Don't worry, I've got you. Young Jiang He whispered sweet nothings to Li Tao in his arms. He turned to see me clutching my injured wrist and glaring daggers at him, freezing in shock. What a shameless pair of lovebirds. I've already stepped aside for their romance. Why did they have to barge into my home, tear up my textbooks, and injure my writing hand? 10 Li Di stormed in. Seeing me injured, he grabbed a broom and chased that wretched couple out of the house. Get out. How dare you come to my house and bully my sister? But how could a child possibly stand against two grown adults? Jiang He instantly grabbed hold of the broom handle. Li Tao's face got scratched by the broom bristles several times. Her face is her most prized possession. Grabbing Li Di by the hair, she slapped him hard. First my sister hits me, and now you dare to strike me too. With that, she delivered 2 more stinging slaps. Jiang He was stunned. By the time he snapped out of it and tried to intervene, Li Di's lips were already split from the slap. A pair of young eyes burning with hatred glared at them. Furiously, Li Tao recoiled in fear, her grip loosening instantly. I never imagined Li Tao could strike Li Di with such brutal force. With his uninjured left hand, he grabbed a wooden pole from the corner and swung it viciously at Jiang He. Wincing in pain, Jiang He staggered backward while still shielding the screaming Li Tao in his arms, retreating through my courtyard gate. My yard is just fenced with wooden pickets and hedges. The neighbors gathered at the doorstep, all buzzing with gossip. I immediately raised my voice. Li Tao, you tore up my textbooks and threatened to stop me from taking the college entrance exam. You and your partner ganged up on us siblings. Everyone saw what happened. Let them be the judge. What gives you the right to do this? Li Tao snapped out of her daze. Noticing the accusing fingers and whispers around her, she clenched her teeth and outright refused to admit it. You're talking nonsense. It was Jiang He and I who came to announce our marriage, and you. 2 siblings started hurling insults first. That's why I reacted. She nudged Jiang He beside her. Back me up here, will you? Jiang He stood there utterly bewildered. He never expected the pure, radiant figure in his heart could act so unreasonably and distort the truth. No better than any common shrew in the village. Li Tao prodded him. Say something. Cat got your tongue. Yet Jiang He's first instinct was to look at me, panting with rage, wooden stick in hand, leaving him torn between 2 difficult choices. Li Tao let out a piercing scream. What are you staring at that country bumpkin for? Why won't you even say a word in my defense anymore? I couldn't be bothered to argue with this shameless pair, so I grabbed my younger brother Li Di by the arm. Li Di, just a teenager, had his pride utterly shattered and was already in tears. Sis, I fought back tears. What's with the crying? Come on, let's go find someone who'll hear us out. 11. We barged into the village chief's house. We plopped down in the yard and wailed at the top of our lungs. The neighbors swarmed over in a crowd, Jiang He among them. The village head's wife couldn't handle the chaos, so she quickly sent her grandson to fetch him. How many years has it been since Li Tao caused such a scene? Last time, 2 lads came to blows over courting Li Tao, and it ended up at her doorstep. Jiang He heard every word clearly. Before long, the village chief and his parents arrived one after another. His mother rushed over in haste, pulling Li Di close to examine him with heartache. Who did this to you? The nail marks drew blood. These scars will stay forever. Li Tang, how could you let this happen to your brother? Mom instinctively scolded me before noticing how pale I looked. Tang, what's wrong with you now? I wasn't in the mood for talking, just for throwing punches. The village chief and the chattering villagers had gotten the full picture. Then someone yelled at the chief's wife. Where's Li Tao? She's something else. Look how she beat up Li Tang and her brother. The chief's wife muttered indignantly. Li Di's practically a grown man. How could she possibly beat him up like that? Li Di sprang to his feet, leaped onto the millstone, and shouted at the top of his lungs. It was your Li Tao who hit me. If she weren't the village head's daughter, do you think I'd let her get away with this? Not only did she barge into my house, tear up my sister's books, and beat my sister, she even brought along that educated youth she's seeing to gang up on me. Wah! The village chief was utterly humiliated. Spotting Jiang He's grim expression in the crowd, they immediately pointed him out. Aren't you an educated youth? Where's Li Tao? How come she's started assaulting people since hanging out with you? Jiang He averted his eyes, hastily dismissing it as a misunderstanding. The village chief's wife grew frantic too. What about Li Tao? The barefoot doctor happened to pass by the chief's house with his 2 apprentices, one older, one younger. The 10-year-old apprentice blurted out. We ran into Sister Tao on our way here. She was heading to the county town and didn't even say hello. Isn't this just fleeing from justice? If you still don't believe me, come to my house. The textbooks Li Tao ripped are still scattered on the floor. I'm preparing for the college entrance exams. You know how precious these materials are. And my brother's face, I sneered coldly. The village chief's face darkened with a hostile glare. My father quickly shielded me behind him. The senior apprentice in his early 20s stepped forward from behind the barefoot doctor. Hold still. Are you hurt somewhere? Only then did I notice the excruciating pain shooting through my right wrist. The apprentice examined it briefly and frowned. This is a dislocated joint. Jiang He's face paled at these words, his gaze turning both evasive and guilt-ridden. My father, who had remained silent until now, confronted the village chief with bloodshot eyes before the crowd. Chief, we're poor peasants who've never offended anyone. Why bar my daughter from the college entrance exams and even break her hand? The village chief found himself completely cornered and had no choice but to make a promise. Li Tao, I'll drag her back by force if I have to, just to make her apologize to your family. The barefoot doctor's senior apprentice performed bone-setting on me. 12 I was sweating profusely from the pain. That's it, only one thing matters now. Can I still write? The senior apprentice, a handsome young man, gave a faint smile at these words. You can try. The slightest attempt to grip the brush sent sharp pains that brought tears to my eyes. My heart shattered like icicles crashing from the eaves. I'll never marry Jiang He in this lifetime. The college entrance exam is my golden ticket to change my destiny. How dare Jiang He make me miss this chance? A few days passed. Li Tao still hadn't shown up, and Li Di along with other village kids found out. Li Tao had gotten into trouble and was hiding at her second brother's place in the county town. She idled around all day, even bossing her sister-in-law to cook and sew for her, absolutely over the moon with joy. So-called apologies are just empty pleasantries in our past life. Perhaps because I initially fell short of her in every way and there was no Jiang He to fuel her competitive spirit, we managed to coexist peacefully in this lifetime. Tearing apart that superficial friendship of appearances early on isn't really something to regret. The sky darkened. I stood under the eaves, feeling stifled. Li Tang, a shadowy figure emerged from the darkness beyond the wooden fence. It's Jiang He. Haven't you and Li Tao done enough damage to me? What more do you want? Jiang He was still trying to enter my yard. I didn't realize it was this serious. I lowered my voice. What are you doing creeping around in the dark? One shout of thief and you'll be beaten to death. Believe me. Jiang He froze, his pale face reflected in the snow. Li Tang, I never meant to hurt you. I just need to know one thing. Have you come back too? My gaze caught Jiang He's anxious probing, drawing on decades of past life familiarity. I reflexively pressed further. Did you deliberately provoke Li Tao, making her tear up my textbook in front of me? Jiang He was instantly rendered speechless. That settles it. For all his intellectual credentials, Jiang He still has that typical scholar spinelessness, always overthinking and indecisive. He wanted confirmation but didn't dare ask directly. Knowing Li Tao's notoriously difficult personality, he deliberately sicked her on me. I was so overwhelmed juggling everything that I slipped up and gave him an opening. Jiang He, oh Jiang He, always hiding behind women to fight your battles. What a real man you are. Now it makes sense. No matter how willful Li Tao was, she'd never completely lost her mind like this before. Jiang He grew agitated and rushed to explain himself. Li Tang, you're really back. I didn't mean to cause you trouble. I just complimented you in front of Li Tao, and she jumped to conclusions about me liking you. I spat in disgust. Bullshit. You definitely said more than just a few nice words, but that's beside the point now. Since you and Li Tao screwed me over, don't blame me for what's coming. I grabbed whatever was handy and shouted into the night sky. Help, there's a burglar in my house. Big dogs from several households started barking wildly, and doors began slamming open up and down the street. Li Di came bolting out. Damn, you're back again. Jiang He cried out in panic. Li Tang, you can't do this to me. Can't do this to him. Then how should I treat him in my past life? I exhausted myself for that home we shared, giving everything without complaint. Yet in his final moments, he drew a line between us, lamenting his missed chance with another woman this lifetime. I never wanted to know him, yet he still sabotaged my college entrance exams. 2 lifetimes of debts to me. Don't think of flimsy. I didn't mean to. We'll make it right. Li Di beat him to a pulp. Li Di grabbed a shoulder pole and chased Jiang He, landing several solid blows, but Jiang He still managed to escape. You bastard. Next time you show up, I'll send you to meet your maker. The incident where Jiang He came to my house to apologize and got chased by Li Di quickly became the talk of the town. 13 I expected Li Tao to be even angrier, and was fully prepared for her to come make a scene, but 3 or 4 days passed. There was still no sign of Li Tao. The village chief's wife tossed us some wild produce like we were beggars, As if that counted as an apology, my father silently gathered the items without a word, but when my mother saw it, she immediately wanted to throw everything away. Back when it was just you and me, I could let anything slide, but now even Li Tao dares to come into our home and hit our children. Li Tao, can't you even say something? My father said to my mother through gritted teeth. Do I need to spell out what happened back then? Have you forgotten what the village head's sons did in the county? He's the village head, it's already a big deal that he's willing to swallow his pride. My mom saw I was still studying, I just couldn't shake off this frustration. Even if you pass the exam, what difference would it make? I'd already made up my mind. I'm applying to teacher training colleges, tuition-free with living stipends for students. Mom asked resentfully. If you leave, will you ever come back? And if I get married, can you guarantee I'd return? Mom, if you don't come back, what will happen to Lidi and your younger brothers? What about us? In my past life, after getting married, my entire existence revolved around Jiang He's career. My parents spent their twilight years living with my younger brothers' families, enjoying quite a contented life. This wasn't my mother's real reason for trying to stop me at all. Of course I won't come back. I want to take you, Dad, and all my brothers away from this godforsaken valley, away from this village where we're forced to bow our heads. My mother froze, then turned away with a choked sob. In this day and age, traveling to another region still requires piles of paperwork. Relocating an entire family might as well be a pipe dream. Mom, someone in this family has to take the first step out. Li Tao never came back from the county town. 14 Jiang He visited the village chief's house several times, but never got to see his sweetheart. The last time, he was outright turned away at the chief's doorstep. We'll talk about everything after your college entrance exams. The village chief thought Jiang He wasn't as upright as he appeared. He'd barely known Li Tao for any time at all when he managed to stir up a fight between her and me. After the college entrance exam announcement, many educated youths at the farm planned to take the exam. The village youths were itching to give it a try. Even a tomboyish, not too bright girl like me went to sign up. Jiang He claimed he'd registered, but instead of cracking open a book, he kept chasing after Li Tao. How's this any different from those lecherous louts who used to orbit Li Tao around the village? Li Di returned from gathering intel and briefed me on the enemy situation. Jiang He went back to the educated youth dorm to study. That place was freezing like an ice cellar. He bundled up in scarves, hats, a padded jacket, and even wrapped himself in a quilt. That idiot forgot to stock up on coal. The coal dust couldn't keep the fire going. He nearly froze to death. When other educated youth went to help him, he used diesel instead of kerosene for the lamp. The whole room filled with black smoke. I nearly died laughing. After marrying Jiang He, I ended up handling all the household chores myself. That man wouldn't lift a finger even if an oil bottle tipped over. A proper lord of leisure. Now that I've been reborn, what does this decades out of practice lord of leisure remember about trivialities like fueling lamps or tending charcoal? Li Di doubled over with laughter, and yet here he was, asking around about how Li Tao was doing in the county, even trying to get messages passed to her. My fingers tightened around the book cover, freezing cold and starving, yet still finding time for lustful thoughts. In that past life, worried about disrupting Jiang He's college entrance exams, I'd voluntarily brought him charcoal, cleaned, and cooked for him. How dare he enjoy my kindness while secretly fantasizing about Li Tao in his heart? What a freeloading, lustful bastard who wants to have his cake and eat it too. Li Di couldn't understand my complex words. Huh, I roared, it's nothing. The college entrance exam is getting closer. 15 Just thinking about wasting my life for that bastard makes my blood boil. This fuels my study motivation endlessly. Literature and politics in the morning, history and geography in the afternoon, then the toughest math at night. My father would wake at night to find me muttering like a witch before the oil lamp. He told my mother, Tang, the child's possessed. Without a word, mother fetched the barefoot doctor's senior apprentice. The next day, the apprentice brought a case stuffed with gleaming acupuncture needles. Beads of sweat rolled down my forehead. Does this hurt? The senior apprentice had an oddly charming smile. Give it a try, bring it on. After he gave me the acupuncture treatment, the pain in my wrist gradually subsided. I started daring to practice writing. Not fast, but at least I can write now. The senior apprentice started packing his belongings to leave. Suddenly it occurred to me to ask, how should I address the doctor? The senior apprentice turned around, standing tall with an upright posture that set him apart from the typical rough-and-tumble farmers, exuding an air of refined elegance. I suppose being reborn has made my mindset feel younger. Her cheeks flushed without her realizing it. My surname is Pan. As in Panin, the legendary handsome scholar. Dr. Pan chuckled warmly, glancing at the messy pile of books on my Kong. no wonder you took the college entrance exam, you've actually read a few books, who do you think you're looking down on? TCHDR, Pan gave me 3 more acupuncture treatments. 16 I've been practicing handwriting consistently and can now write straight without slanting when the exam comes. I'll keep my answers concise and to the point, trying to write less. Inspired by me, Lee D. Also started focusing on his studies. My teacher said studying will pay off in the future. The younger kids stopped fooling around too, those with books read, those without sketch with charcoal on old newspapers while winter raged outside. The seeds of learning quietly sprouted in these young minds indoors. When my parents returned, they exchanged glances before retreating to the outer room. 3 days left until the college entrance exams. A message from Li Tao reached the farm from the county town. The messenger only spilled the truth after Jiang He kept pestering him. You'd find out sooner or later anyway. Li Tao's in the county town now. Her second brother set her up with someone new. The guy's got a government job, so Peach will become a city girl once they're married. Jiang He felt as if struck by lightning. Then what am I? After all I'd done for Taylor, the messenger looked thoroughly embarrassed. Over the years, plenty have courted Taylor, but the village head and his wife chased them all away. Besides, you've only known Taylor for days, who even knows about you too? Without any marriage registration, how could it count? Jiang He couldn't accept the truth and insisted on going to town to see for himself. The other educated youths all urged him to focus on the college entrance exams first. His own future mattered more than Li Tao. A distraught Jiang He somehow ended up at my doorstep again. 17 This time, it was my father who ran into him at the door. My dad snapped. You again, what do you want now? Jiang He instinctively called out, Dad, ha. My father's beard practically bristled with indignation. Jiang He quickly backtracked. Uncle, it's me. I'd like to apologize to Li Tang in person again. My dad let out a dry chuckle. We've already heard your apology once. No need for a repeat performance. Get lost. But Jiang He wouldn't budge. He kept circling my dad at the courtyard gate like a stubborn puppy, dead set on getting inside to see me. A neighbor walked by and asked my dad, who's this now? Jiang He seized the moment, pushed open the door and lifted the curtain, stepping into our outer room. Dr. Pan happened to be finishing up my acupuncture treatment. Just like that, my wrist remained in Dr. Pan's grasp. What the hell are you doing? Jiang He completely ignored my mom and younger brothers on the other side of the room, acting like a cuckolded husband catching his wife in the act. Li Di kicked Jiang He from behind first. What the fuck do you think you're doing? My dad stormed in, grabbed Jiang He by the collar after he'd been kicked to the ground, and dragged him out. My younger brothers rushed out too, all eager to get their punches in. A neighbor made a half-hearted attempt to intervene. He's the village chief's future son-in-law after all. Don't go overboard. Even my timid father couldn't help getting furious. That worthless son-in-law, that good-for-nothing educated youth. Did you see how he barged into my house in broad daylight? What's his game? Think we're defenseless? I leaned on the windowsill, watching Jiang He scamper away in panic. Dr. Pan asked curiously, what on earth did that guy come here for? What brings you here? That path with Li Tao is a dead end, so you're taking my old route, the second chance wife path. Ugh, what nerve. Exam day arrived. 18 Just to be safe, I went to stay with relatives in the county town a day early. Jiang He and other educated youths had specially arranged transport via heavy-duty trucks. The county high school was packed with students giving it their all. Inside and out, as the exam halls opened, crowds streamed in like flowing water to their assigned rooms. The exams lasted just 2 days with midday breaks. I did my best to avoid running into Jiang He right after finishing my last exam. I unexpectedly ran into Jiang He across the street while waiting for the bus. His brows were furrowed, and he ignored the male-educated youth trying to talk to him. Just as the truck was about to depart, Jiang He jumped off and shouted to the people on board, I have to find Li Tao. At such a critical juncture in life, he still couldn't let go of Li Tao. Just then, as the bus was about to depart, the conductor shouted into the crowded compartment, hold tight and stay seated, we're moving. Hearing the commotion, Jiang He glanced toward the bus and sure enough, spotted me pressed against the window. He suddenly realized I'd seen every move he just made, the look of sheer frustration on his face. What a pathetic creature wants to keep his idealized lover while maintaining ties with his loyal ex. The bus pulled away, and I couldn't be bothered to look at Jiang He anymore. I went back to the village. 19 Li Di was more anxious than anyone, asking how my exam went. Well, I answered everything. The actual score depends on how the teacher grades it. Looking back, we had way too little prep time for this year's college entrance exams. Math was manageable, but other subjects didn't seem to have clear-cut answers. The questions felt easy to me, but I shouldn't get overconfident. Who knows how the grading will turn out? I'm done with my exams. But now my dad's the one stressing out. He's chain-smoking indoors and out. My home's shrouded in mist like a fairyland. Mom dragged Dr. Pan back here again. That's odd. But my wrist has already healed, hasn't it? My mother pursed her lips. You've got no future prospects. Who else but me would bail you out? You've met Xiao Pan. Sure, his family's poor, but his looks are more than enough for someone like you, Mom. If I'd known in my past life you could arrange someone like this for me, why would I have even bothered trying these days? An unmarried woman has only two paths in life: 20 work first, then marry first, then work. Either way, staying single isn't an option. I'm not entirely confident about passing the college entrance exam. My mother told me again. The Pan family lives just a few miles from our village. Their family background isn't ideal, but they're good people. Li Tao will return eventually, and the village head will surely cause trouble. If you marry into their family, we might just avoid this mess. I agreed, but I still asked Pan Yunxing, are you really willing? I'm not much to look at, tall and bulky, with a quick temper and a sharp tongue. I listed all the flaws people often point out about me. Pan Yunxing flashed that devastatingly handsome smile again. Being attractive just invites unwanted attention. And with my family background, well, they say even a prized Lingji mushroom growing in the mud is only fit for pigs. Would you really not mind? A sudden wave of sadness washed over me. No, I think you're wonderful just as you are. I like you because you're inherently good. Pan Yunxing's face flushed crimson in an instant. In my past life, I had nothing to my name. I managed to build a thriving business with Jianghe, rising from a remote mountain village to a major southern city. This lifetime has granted me a wealth of experience and wisdom. Pan Yunxing's looks and charisma easily outshine Jianghe's by a mile. Life with Pan Yunxing would be infinitely more pleasant. Just basking in his good looks beats enduring Jianghe's stifling company any day. Getting married these days is quite straightforward. 21 Pan Yunxing and I submitted our marriage application, bought red fabric in town, and exchanged ration coupons for sweets and pastries. That pretty much covered most of it. The approval should come through after New Year's, then I'll move in with you, and we'll build our life together. Pan Yunxing pondered, you truly don't mind my problematic family background? I smiled mysteriously. All I know is, opportunity knocks but once. Amidst the laughter and banter, the street was bustling with onlookers, drawn by some commotion. Being tall finally paid off. My gaze cut through the crowd, finally spotting what was happening in the thick of it. It was Li Tao. She wore a brand new padded jacket, her hair freshly permed. A beggar clung to her thigh desperately. The beggar was sobbing uncontrollably, refusing to let her go. I only recognized Jianghe by his voice. He was covered head to toe in grime, absolutely filthy. Peach, you can't leave. What am I supposed to do? Li Tao spat in disgust. Go die wherever the hell you want. Li Tao outright screamed for help. The crowd started throwing punches too. Jianghe finally let go after taking a painful hit, just wailing and sobbing loudly. It sounded absolutely heartbreaking. Seizing the moment as the crowd dispersed, I quickly pulled Pan Yunxing away. Pan Yunxing asked in confusion, isn't that the educated youth who injured your wrist? So the woman who told him to go to hell was Li Tao. Reality is the most absurd theater. Judging by Jianghe's disheveled appearance, he must have been hiding in the county town searching for Li Tao since the day the college entrance exams ended. To avoid suspicion, I had Pan Yunxing send word back to the farm, urging the educated youths to rescue Jianghe immediately. I won't let Jianghe freeze to death on the streets that easily. I want him alive. I want him to live in utter humiliation. Surprisingly, Pan Yunxing and I got our marriage approval right before Lunar New Year. 22 The village chief's family knew I had married Pan Yunxing, a barefoot doctor from a family with a problematic background, without official employment, who had to travel far and wide to treat patients. Li Tao also got married. She married into a family of cadres within the system. Her husband not only had an official position but also an allocation for housing. The village chief's wife couldn't resist mocking her mercilessly. Li Tang dared compare herself to my tailor, yet ended up married to that good-for-nothing. Some villagers said Dr. Pan was both skilled and kind-hearted, but the Pans were former landlords. Their descendants will rot in poverty. The Li family didn't even think twice before marrying their daughter off in such a hurry. The villagers fell silent. Pan Yunxing heard the news, and it left a bitter taste in his heart. Knowing about the upcoming policy changes, I felt completely at ease. Don't listen to those baseless rumors. Things will be different in a few years. When the time comes, I'll take the whole family south to live that idyllic life by the sea, where spring brings blossoms and warmth. Pan Yunxing chewed on my empty promise. A seaside home with spring blossoms. Exactly, Tang, I believe in you. Our newlywed days were sweeter than any honeymoon I'd ever Imagine, the bride returns to her parents' home 3 days after the wedding. 23. Li Tao and her husband also traveled back to her family home on the second day of Lunar New Year in their large truck. The truck bed was loaded with several baskets of gifts from the city. Every passing villager received handfuls of candies or pastries. The village chief even set off firecrackers specially. Half the village could feel the festive cheer. Things were much quieter on our side, Pan Yunxing, and I only brought back a few small packets of sweets and pastries. The whole family gathered around the Kong, eating and drinking. When the firecrackers started, the younger kids were practically bouncing with excitement. Li Di stopped them with just a look, but then, some kids from the village deliberately came over to provoke mine. Why aren't you guys coming out to play? The village chief's handing out wedding candies, they're super sweet. My dad was in charge of shooing the kids away. Mom tore open several candy packets and distributed them to all my younger brothers. Pan Yunxing's ears stayed bright red the entire time. On the way back, Pan Yunxing said, I'm sorry, with so many villagers living in worse conditions than the village chief's family, should every son-in-law be apologizing? Pan Yunxing remained silent. I held out both my hands and said, with the 4 hands between us, we'll surely build a home and move out of this godforsaken gully. The wind howled and the snow swirled on our way out of the village. We actually ran into Li Tao and her husband. Li Tao was wearing another beautiful new dress. Her husband standing beside her looked gaunt and frail. His features could hardly be called handsome. As they were about to board the truck, Li Tao spotted me with her sharp eyes. I wasn't wearing anything new, let alone having an imposing truck as my ride. The only genuinely handsome face around belonged to her husband, Pan Yunxing. Li Tao, who had initially held her chin high, immediately looked displeased upon seeing Pan Yunxing. She was just so stubborn. If she outshone me in every way but one, even if it was just slightly, she'd instantly feel put out. Noticing her pause, her husband asked, someone you know again? Li Tao deliberately raised her voice. No, I don't just know any Tom, Dick or Harry. Ah, a strange cry came from nowhere. We all turned toward the sound in unison. It's Jiang He. He was unshaven with messy hair covering his eyes, looking completely disheveled. Li Tao's face turned pale with fright as she scrambled into the car, urging, let's go, let's go. We keep running into these cursed people. Her husband frowned, giving her a strange look. The truck honked once and drove off, leaving Jiang He behind. Jiang He wasn't foolish enough to chase after Li Tao's truck. He just stood by the roadside, dejected, as if the world was vast but he couldn't find his way. What a pathetic loser. TCH, I dragged Pan Yunxing away with me. Pan Yunxing kept looking back over his shoulder. Weren't that educated youth and Li Tao supposed to get married? What's gone wrong between them now? His beloved, the one who got away, is back in town, and his ex-wife, the one he treated like dirt, has moved on too. What else could Jiang He do but watch? Who knows? Anyway, he's all alone now. After the new year, word has it that the preliminary college entrance exam selection list was posted on a big red, a traditional red announcement board, outside the county Education Bureau. 24. Pan Yunxing said, how about we go check it out? I looked out the window at the heavy snowfall. The county town was over 20 kilometers away. Who could stand the cold if we walked all that way? Even if I'm on the preliminary list, I wouldn't dare say I passed until the final confirmation. Let's just wait a bit longer. Li Di ran from my maiden home to our newlywed house. Sis, you passed the preliminary selection. The county wants you to go for a physical examination right away. Li Di had also heard from others that several educated youths had teamed up to go to the county to check the results. And they really did see my name. Pan Yunxing and I were absolutely overjoyed. Several farms organized for their educated youth to go for medical checkups at the hospital by truck, and they gave us a ride along the way. I was so happy I completely forgot about the awkwardness of potentially running into Jiang He. The checkup process itself went as smoothly as silk. I'm built like a tank and healthy as a horse. The medical report got stamped with a big fat approved. While waiting in line at the county hospital, I overheard about a woman in gynecology who'd been beaten by her newlywed husband. That shameless woman, married barely over 2 weeks, yet 2 months pregnant. Sigh, whose family is she from? Shoo, it's from the family. That woman from the countryside had no shame, didn't even realize she was pregnant. When the doctor found out, she clung to her husband's arm like a spoiled child, whining and throwing tantrums. Her man laid hands on her right away. A few slaps shut her up, said it was done by one of those educated youths from the farm. My ears caught a few key phrases. I thought, it can't be that coincidental, can it? On the way back, I didn't mention it to Pan Yunxing, but the very next day, Li Di came running to me again to report on the enemy situation. 25. Sis, Li Tao was kicked out by her in-laws, and her face is all swollen from being beaten. Her man trashed the village chief's house and called her a slut. Li Tao's second brother took some men to the farm, but Jiang He got wind of it and fled. A storm raged within me. That bastard Jiang He couldn't wait to make things official after being reborn. Li Tao is incredibly brave. After everything that's happened, she still dares to marry into the county town to climb the social ladder. If it weren't for the lack of relevant educational knowledge in this era, Li Tao, in her confusion, went for a checkup at the hospital, and it's quite possible she could have gotten away with it. Snapping back to reality, I quickly covered Li Di's mouth and whispered to him, "Don't say a word, go home, and tell mom and dad to stay in too." Li Di was puzzled. Li Tao is so petty. If I don't suck up to her, I'll really offend her. If she finds out I might get into university while she's fallen so low, do you think she won't cause trouble again? Why? Li Di snorted. She still has the nerve to make a scene. She said she only got together with Jiang He because he knew the county magistrate. Isn't she out of her mind? How could the county magistrate possibly know Jiang He? They do know each other. It was just a group photo taken when Jiang He got into university and the county leadership came to visit him. If you're talking about that kind of acquaintance, I've got plenty. Li Di then casually added, "Oh, by the way, Jiang He failed the exam." It only then dawned on me that I hadn't seen Jiang He at the physical exam that day. Oh, well, then I guess I'm definitely not going to get to know him in this lifetime. Absurd, ridiculous. Early March brought yet another freak snowstorm. 26. My college acceptance letter never came. I might as well go to the farm near Pan's house to ask around for information. Those educated youths were also very kind-hearted. When they heard I'd passed the preliminary selection by self-study, some even looked surprised and a little regretful. Out of 17 or 18 of them who took the exam, only 2 passed the preliminary selection. Not everyone possesses the keen insight to seize opportunities before they even fully materialize. I wasn't reborn, nor did I have the confidence to even attempt the exam. Finally, I teamed up with the 2 educated youths who passed the preliminary selection, and we trekked through mountains and rivers to the commune to collect our respective admission letters. The staff were incredibly helpful too. Upon hearing my name, they even chuckled and said, "You're Li Tang, you're quite popular. People from your village have been asking about your admission letter several times." My heart skipped a beat. I tucked the admission letter into my inner clothing. After that, I didn't dare go home. I secretly had someone bring Pan Yunxing to the farm. It was so cold, yet when Pan Yunxing arrived, sweat was beading on his forehead. After you left, several thugs came to the house looking for trouble. I went to my father-in-law's place, and Li Di also mentioned that Li Tao had already caused a scene at your house. I bit my lip hard. What a bunch of bastards. Pan Yunxing looked at my admission letter with a radiant smile. "Tang, you finally made it out. I was the first female college student from our village." 27. My parents' home was packed with well-wishers, only to find out I'd already been married off. When they finally tracked down the Pan household, my in-laws claimed I'd left for university at dawn, but nothing could dampen everyone's excitement. My college admission brought honor to both our families. Li Tao still wanted to make a scene, yet after her miscarriage, she came through the snow to my house, screaming and causing a hysterical scene. Now she's completely broken, bedridden and unable to move. Li Tao was introduced to her current husband by her second brother. Because of Li Tao's situation, her brother ended up making countless enemies. The village chief said, "Just let her die." The chief's wife refused and tearfully called for the barefoot doctor. Li Tao knew that the barefoot doctor's top apprentice was my husband. She started spouting nonsense again, fabricating all her messed up stories as if they were mine, and then giggled. The barefoot doctor was a kind and benevolent person. My top apprentice was the one who treated Li Tang's dislocated arm. If you hadn't made such a fuss back then, those 2 kids would never have ended up together. My dear girl, you're still so young. Who exactly are you trying to spite? Li Tao covered her face with the quilt and sobbed uncontrollably. After that, Li Tao lost the affection her parents once showed her and was frequently beaten and verbally abused. The gossip was downright vicious. I've been feeling completely drained lately. Jiang He was renowned in the brigade as a meticulous accountant with crystal-clear ledgers. 28. In his past life, his inflexibility had quietly alienated many people. This time around, he failed the college entrance exam, and combined with his past history with Li Tao, many speculated the child she lost was his. The vicious gossip kept pouring into his ears like truckloads of dirt. What really got under his skin was that I actually got into the provincial normal university. He started haunting my parents' neighborhood like a restless ghost. He regrets it now. Li Di and his buddies pelted them with stones. "You bastard, you're the one who dislocated my sister's arm, almost cost our family a college graduate." He's covering for Li Tao's bullying because they're screwing around behind everyone's backs. Adulterers, shameless. The village kids cursed him relentlessly. The village chief's family reputation grew increasingly foul. Eventually, Jiang He accidentally took a fall on his way back from our village to the farm, breaking his leg. When they found him, he was barely clinging to life. Even the barefoot doctor couldn't cure it. Only then was he leisurely transported to the county hospital. The county hospital took one look and asked, "Why did it take so long to bring him in? He's going to be permanently disabled," and as luck would have it, Jiang He was found to have embezzled a lot of food coupons while working as an accountant, all of which he spent on Li Tao. From the first time I saw Jiang He buying so many things for Li Tao, I knew he must have been dipping into public funds. 29 There was no other explanation. In his previous life, as an educated youth, Jiang He received a limited living allowance, and his accounting work for the commune was purely voluntary. Where on earth would he get extra ration coupons to trade for anything in this lifetime? In the end, out of pity for his disability, they didn't send him to prison. As for returning to the city or taking the college entrance exams in the future, Jiang He might as well forget about those possibilities. Jiang He deserved to pay for his mistakes by spending the rest of his life stuck in this backwater village where he'd been sent down. My anonymous tip about him wasn't in vain after all. 3 years later, 30, Pan Yinxing also got admitted to the provincial medical university. My wife and I were finally reunited in the provincial capital that summer vacation. We went back to our hometown together again. The only reason I dared to return this time was because the village chief's family had fallen on hard times. My mother was already waiting for us at the village entrance early in the morning. "It's been 3 years, I finally get to see you again, son." Passing by the former village chief's house, I was shocked to see it had collapsed. My mom, with a troubled look, quickly pulled us away. Once we got home and settled onto the warm Kong, my dad finally explained what had happened. "After you left for college, the city started overturning old wrongful cases. Every one of the village chief's sons got exposed. The worst was the second son. He'd seized someone else's house in town, even forced a local girl into marriage. All that came to light. The chief had a stroke when he heard Li Tao, who was always a bit unhinged, set the house on fire playing with matches at midnight." Though rescued from the flames, the old couple didn't last half a year in the ramshackle shelter they'd been reduced to living in. Li Di interjected at this point. "What's so tragic about it? How did the village chief bully us back then?" "I haven't forgotten," second brother also said. "Even in death, they still brought trouble to our village. A few years ago, Uncle Lu, our neighbor, went to the county. As soon as people heard he was from our village, they said our village was famous for producing both university students and loose women. Uncle Lu almost got into a fight with that person. I felt surprisingly calm after hearing that. My past life probably played out much the same way. Li Tao did marry well, but after marriage, her brother's troubles ended up affecting her too. Her husband quarreled with her and demanded a divorce. Spoiled by her habitual temper, she impulsively drank pesticide in a moment of despair. She was only in her 20s when she passed away. I feel deep sympathy for her due to her tragically premature death. Despite all the childhood frictions, I choose only to remember her radiant charm after rebirth. I was determined to rewrite the tragedy of her marriage. Thus began her first encounter with Jiang He. If this proves to be unrequited love, there's nothing more I can do. If they were both willing, Jiang He would get what he wanted, and Li Tao's outcome would surely be better than her previous life, where she committed suicide after an argument. From now on, we'll go our separate ways. And that's how it should be. Who would have thought that this time around, the two of them would spark such a connection? Jiang He is devious and constantly makes terrible decisions. Li Tao acts willfully, always reaching for what's beyond her grasp. I'm almost impressed by how they're digging their own grave. After dinner, my husband and I took a stroll through the village. 31. Li Di has now grown taller than me. He mysteriously led us to a rundown house. "Sis, this is where Jiang He and Li Tao live." Jiang He and Li Tao, they actually managed to rekindle their romance. The door creaked open with a groan. We quickly hid ourselves, disheveled and grimy. Jiang He emerged leaning on a cane. The house was so dilapidated it didn't even have a courtyard wall. Jiang He set his crutch aside and laboriously pulled the bellows, preparing to start a fire for cooking. Before long, a disheveled woman, giggling wildly, ran out. On closer inspection, he noticed a frayed, broken rope tied around her waist. Jiang He froze for a moment, then yelled and chased after her. But how could a disabled person on crutches possibly catch up to an energetic madman? I couldn't believe it. "Is that Li Tao?" Li Di nodded. "Yeah." After the village chief and his wife died, Li Tao's relatives looked after her for a while, more as a formality than anything else. But her madness came and went in unpredictable waves. Later, all her brothers were convicted. No one cared for her anymore. After some unknown dealings with Li Tao's relatives, Jiang He took her to settle in that dilapidated house. Jiang He's lifelong dream spanning 2 generations has finally come true. This time when I returned 32, my in-laws family was finally cleared of the landlord label. With visible relief, my mother-in-law slipped the family heirloom jade bracelet onto my wrist. I don't quite dare to wear it, my mother-in-law said. Ever since you went to college, so many people claimed you'd never come back and would break up with Yunxing. But you proved them wrong. You even wrote letters encouraging him to pursue higher education too. Having you as our daughter-in-law is nothing short of a divine blessing. Stroking the miraculously preserved bracelet, I said solemnly to my mother-in-law, Mom, our best days are surely yet to come. Those words really warmed my mother-in-law's heart. The holidays are over, despite owing me his life. Jiang He tricked me into slaving away for him my entire life. As the car was about to leave the village, passing a high hill, Pan Yunxing tugged at me to look outside. There was a man leaning on a crutch, staring blankly in the direction we were leaving. I saw him. I wonder if he saw me. Anyway, he seemed to be shouting something loudly. I didn't catch that. We're not coming back after this. Huh, we'll work on settling down in the provincial capital soon, then move both your family and mine out there. Got it. Then we'll set our course toward the dream of ocean views and spring blossoms. Tang, I believe in you. The end. Story 2. Before his death, my husband said he would leave all his inheritance to his first love, Sui Sui. She's different from you. You're just a nanny, but she's a dancer. She's lived elegantly her whole life, and only with money can she live out her remaining years comfortably. Besides, back then, if it weren't for you staging that car accident, we wouldn't have separated. You took advantage of my gratitude and wasted my entire life. If I could do it all over again, I'd rather be disabled than have any connection with you. He was full of grievances, yet never mentioned how I missed 2 college entrance exams to save him later, to help him recover. I gave up my aerospace dream and switched to nursing. I signed the asset waiver agreement and whispered softly, okay. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day of the college entrance exam, the moment he raced his car to win back his first love. I pretended to know nothing about it. In this lifetime, I don't want to have any involvement with him either. Just as the college entrance exam ended, my dad grabbed me and quickly rushed back to the car. He started the car while my mom took charge of answering. Did you know about Wen Shua's early romance? Today was the college entrance exam, but the girl broke up with him. Wen Shua, I didn't need to hear the rest to know exactly what happened. Just like in my past life, Wen Shua got into a car accident chasing after his girlfriend and lost his legs. The only difference was this time I watched helplessly as Wen Shua went to his death, then went on to complete the afternoon exam. When we arrived at the hospital, 2 exhausted doctors had just emerged from the operating room. The car accident was too severe, and the rescue was delayed. We've saved his life, but he'll most likely never walk again. If post-op recovery goes poorly, amputation might be necessary. As these words were spoken, Auntie Sue, Wen Shua's mother, burst into tears. Uncle Wen steadied her, his own face filled with grief. My parents also stood there dumbfounded. It's a shame Wen Shua studied so hard for so many years, only for this to happen at such a critical moment. My dad shot a look to silence my mom. After Wen Shua was pushed out, all 4 parents immediately surrounded him. Only I stood frozen, staring blankly at my own hands, slender and delicate, without calluses or the swollen joints from prolonged exposure to cold water. I had truly been reborn, and the 2 exams I took this afternoon were also real. In their past life, Wen Shua's first love Su Firan broke up with him on the day of the college entrance exam in an attempt to win her back. Wen Shua didn't hesitate to drive Uncle Wen's car to chase after her. I happened to see this and, worried about Wen Shua's safety, followed behind but ended up witnessing that horrific car accident with my own eyes. To get him to the hospital for treatment as soon as possible, I missed 2 afternoon exams. Despite usually scoring nearly 700 points, I only got a little over 400 in the college entrance exam. I had planned to retake the exam, but when Shua suddenly knelt down and confessed his feelings, he said, "The doctor told me that if you hadn't risked pulling me out of the car, both my legs would likely have been amputated. You gave up 2 exams for me and missed the aerospace program. I'm willing to take responsibility for you for the rest of my life, if you don't mind me." Years of unrequited love suddenly came to fruition at this moment, and for a while I didn't even know how to react. What about Su Firan then? When Shua's eyes were filled with nothing but hatred. If it weren't for her, how could I have ended up like this? I can't hate her enough. After a day of hesitation, coupled with changes in the college entrance exam policies and when Shua repeatedly claiming he couldn't live without me, I finally agreed. Missing out on my favorite major, I enrolled in nursing to help Wen Shua stand up again. For the next few decades, I dedicated myself to assisting Wen Shua with his rehabilitation training. He said he disliked having outsiders at home, so tasks like laundry, cooking, massages, and rehabilitation were solely handled by me. I took care of him meticulously until he could stand on his own feet again. When he refused to accept failure and wanted to start a business, I was the one running around helping him. But when his career took off, on the day of his celebration banquet, I overheard him asking his assistant, "Did you manage to invite that dancer Su Firan to be my companion for today?" The assistant nodded but hesitated, saying, "President Wen, what about your wife?" Wen Shua looked at his upright reflection in the mirror and let out a cold laugh. "My wife, she's just a housekeeper." I stood behind the door, humiliated, clutching the dress I was wearing. Perhaps heaven took pity, as Wen Shua was once again admitted to the ICU due to complications. But before his death, he left all his inheritance to Su Firan. He even transferred the mere few $100,000 in my name to Su Firan. Sway, she's different from you. You're just a nanny, but she's a dancer. She's lived elegantly her whole life, and money is what she needs to live comfortably for the rest of her days. And back then, if it weren't for you staging that car accident, we wouldn't have separated. You exploited my gratitude and ruined my entire life. If I could do it over, I'd rather be disabled than have any connection with you. After toiling half my life, I became a penniless man only fit for menial labor in my past life. I've already paid the price for being love-struck too this time. I silently watched Uncle Wen and Aunt Su shed tears. Wen and I have only one son in this lifetime, Wen Shua. We've poured all our efforts into him. He's clearly an outstanding student with both moral integrity and academic excellence. So how could he start dating so young? I've already made inquiries. That girl is an art student with terrible grades. The college entrance exam means nothing to her. But she shouldn't be ruining Wen Shua at this critical moment. Sobs. My mother sighed beside me. This girl too. After Wen Shua went through such a big ordeal for her, she doesn't even come to visit. Aunt Su's eyes filled with resentment as she abruptly stood up. We're not an unreasonable family. But that girl ruined my son. She should at least come to apologize. Aunt Su got up to go find Su Firan, but before she could take 2 steps, Wen Shua's shouts came from the hospital room. Firan. I followed at the very end and walked in. Wen Shua had gauze wrapped around his head, both legs immobilized, struggling desperately to crawl but unable to get up no matter how hard he tried because I didn't follow. It said that Wen Shua remained unconscious in the car for over an hour before a teacher found him and called 120. The treatment came too late, and the injuries were more severe. The doctor said the chance of amputation is very high. Aunt Su ran over, holding back her tears. Don't move, son. The doctor said you shouldn't move around. The wound hasn't healed yet. Wen Shua stared at his leg in slight surprise, then said with forced nonchalance, It's nothing, just a broken bone, not a big deal. See, I can still move it. Wen Shua tried to move his leg, but there was no response. His expression gradually froze, and with each attempt, his face revealed growing urgency. Why can't I move my legs? The anesthesia must still be wearing off, right? Uncle Wen and Aunt Su had tears in their eyes, but didn't know how to begin speaking. Speak, say something. Wen Shua pressed the nurse call button himself, and when the nurse entered, he immediately began questioning her. What's wrong with my leg? Tell me, what's really wrong with my leg? The nurse was startled, and just as she was about to speak, Wen Shua suddenly pounded his leg violently again. Why can't I move at all? Wen Shua was so agitated that 2 or 3 people couldn't hold him down, but seeing him like this, I inexplicably felt a hint of satisfaction. I walked up to Wen Shua and said word by word, keep pounding your legs if you want. Right now they're just paralyzed, but if you keep it up, you might end up needing amputation. Wen Shua froze as if struck by the word paralyzed. Paralyzed. Aunt Su finally couldn't hold back and broke down in tears. Uncle Wen also said, Dad already knows the whole story of this matter. Now that you've ended up like this, that Su Firan. Before he could finish speaking, Wen Shua suddenly said, It has nothing to do with Firan. I was in a hurry and drove without permission. I lowered my eyes and smiled. Even if your favoritism paralyzed me, should I still defend you in front of everyone? This car accident clearly had nothing to do with me, yet in my past life, Wen Shua could recklessly pin the blame on me. The difference between love and its absence is indeed obvious. In my past life, he said he'd rather be disabled than have any connection with me. He remained disabled for life. While I took the college entrance exams to pursue my dreams, everyone got what they wished for. 3. This time I didn't offer to stay overnight with Wen Shua again. After a while, I went home, but the next day, Aunt Su fell ill due to extreme stress and anger. After all, Wen Shua was underage and caught driving without a license by the media, sparking a wave of online abuse directed at him. Uncle Wen couldn't handle the pressure alone, so my mom had no choice but to send me over right after I finished my college entrance exams. When Wenshua saw it was me who came, his initial excitement quickly faded. I ignored him, just quietly sat nearby playing with my phone, thinking as long as he was unharmed that was enough. But just when the nurse came to change the dressing, Wenshua was being very uncooperative. Bed 18, time for a dressing change. Wenshua turned his head with reddened eyes. No need, the nurse was helpless but not the least bit surprised, looking as if this was a common occurrence. If you don't change the dressing, your leg will only get worse. The nurse proceeded to unwrap the bandages on Wenshua's leg without waiting for consent. No need to change it. Wenshua violently knocked the iodine solution off the nurse's tray, sending it crashing loudly to the floor. I frowned and stood up. In his previous life, Wenshua couldn't accept his legs being like this either, but he wasn't as much of a jerk about it as he is now. Only after carefully recalling did I notice the difference. In the previous life after Wenshua's accident, I went to Su Firan and pleaded with her extensively. She came to visit him the very next day, but this time, news of Wenshua's car accident spread throughout the school, yet Su Firan showed no reaction at all. Wenshua was throwing a tantrum. The nurse was extremely aggrieved, yet she had no choice but to complete her task. But before she could touch him, Shua actually reached out and gave the nurse a shove on the shoulder. I already told you, are you deaf or just stupid? Is everyone in your profession this worthless? Can't you even understand what a patient is? Unable to bear it any longer, I raised my hand and slapped Wenshua across the face. If you don't want treatment, just check out. Why are you throwing a tantrum here? The nurse wiped her tears, took a deep breath, then went out to fetch the medicine again. Bed number 18, I grabbed the medicine and threw it onto Wenshua's body. If you want to die, hurry up and go. If not, change it yourself. The nurse gave me a grateful look before leaving with visible relief. My heart silently aches for this young lady at the private hospital, having encountered such a beast like Wenshua. Wenshua panted heavily like a raging lion, glaring at me furiously. Xiao Sui Sui, how dare you hit me? Seeing the swelling on his face, I finally felt a bit of satisfaction. Before you go looking for trouble, think about your parents first. Your mother fell ill. Your father's hair turned white overnight. What reason do you have to act like this? Just because Su Firan didn't come to see you, then why don't you go bother her instead? Wenshua fell silent after being called out. After a long while, he finally spoke with a nasal tone. Firan must have gone to training camp again and didn't know about this. That's why she didn't come. I mercilessly shattered his illusions. The college entrance exam is over. She even attended a class reunion yesterday. Wenshua pressed his lips tightly and turned his head away again, clearly unwilling to admit it. By the time I returned from the bathroom, he had secretly changed his medication. In my past life, I always pitied Wenshua for being sick and took care of everything for him personally. Later, I ended up spoiling him into a helpless adult who wouldn't even take his daily medicine unless I portioned it out for him. Now that no one's taking care of him, he still managed to change his medication on his own, didn't he? After returning home, I took a glance at Su Firan's social media feed. She's had quite an eventful few days. After much deliberation, I finally opened the chat window with Su Firan. I wanted to see how Su Firan would treat Wenshua in this lifetime without my earnest persuasion. For the next day, Su Firan and I arrived at the hospital one after another. When I arrived, Wenshua's face was lifeless, but when Su Firan came, he finally seemed like a living person. His eyes sparkled. Firan, you've finally come. How did you know I was hospitalized? You've gone through so much trouble in this heat. Xiao Sui Sui, quickly go buy Firan a cup of milk tea. Even though I no longer had any feelings for Wenshua in this lifetime, I still couldn't help but laugh in frustration. In my past life, I gave up repeating the college entrance exam to study nursing, helping him recover from paralysis and stand again. Not only did he fail to appreciate my efforts, but he also treated me like a maid, claiming I orchestrated the accident to be with him. Truly, the beloved wins by merely existing. Without lifting a finger, I stood motionless as Su Firan crossed her arms and coldly declined. She kept her distance from Wenshua. I didn't come here to drink milk tea. Wenshua, what exactly do you mean? You had an accident because of your poor driving skills, and now you want to drag me into it and make me take responsibility for you. Are you kidding me? Your car accident happened after I broke up with you. We're already done, understand? It was the first time I saw that expression on Wenshua's face. Stunned, awkward, yet forcing a smile. He looked like he'd had a hard life. He stammered, Firan, no, I didn't mean to make you take responsibility. Su Firan coldly berated him in return. Did you think I wouldn't know? You deliberately spread rumors about your car accident at school, you're just trying to emotionally blackmail me. The more you act like this, the more disgusted I feel. You're the one who insisted on clinging to me. Do you expect me to waste my whole life on you? Don't contact me again. I'm telling you for the last time, we're already broken up. Sufiran walked away with her head held high, while Wen Shuai actually shed 2 tears in his previous life. He didn't cry before death. This time, he didn't cry upon learning of his paralysis. But Sufiran's few words made him break down in tears. I curled my lips in a vengeful smirk. The college entrance exam application is coming up soon. I need to go back and choose my schools. Uncle Wen needs to take care of Aunt Sue, so please hire a temporary caregiver for now. I said a lot, but Wen Shuai didn't listen to any of it. But it doesn't matter. I just need to carry out my parents' orders. I just heard that Wen Shuai developed a high fever that same night and had to receive emergency treatment again. 5. I stopped going to the hospital and instead began studying aerospace knowledge in my past life. Wen Shuai called me a nanny because of my major. This time, I will fulfill my own dream. I signed up for a summer training camp related to aerospace studies and am preparing to depart in 3 days. But I never expected that the next day, while my mom was helping me pack my things, Aunt Sue's call suddenly came through. She was crying so hard on the other end she could barely catch her breath. Her words interspersed with the wailing sound of sirens. Quick, come to the hospital. The girl Wen Shuai likes got a boyfriend, and he's so heartbroken he's trying to kill himself. Son, come down here right now. The parents exchanged glances, and Dad accidentally cut his hand while chopping vegetables. Suicide. Let's go. Hurry over there. On the way, the parents were extremely anxious. Such a good child ruined like this. Wen Shuai used to be so wonderful. Xiao Sui Sui. You must never fall in love too early. No, you must never be love-struck. Understand? My mom shot a glare at my dad. How could my daughter? I sat in the back without speaking, but my heart was bitter. Actually, I don't regret saving someone in my past life, but I suffered greatly from being love-struck in my past life. My mistakes alone caused my parents to toil for half their lives. Mom and Dad, I swear I won't let that happen again. No matter who my partner is, it won't happen. More than sacrifice. In this life I want to stay true to myself. 6. The area near the hospital was completely jammed, so my mother had to take me out of the car and we ran there. Both 110 and 119 arrived, and thick padding was laid out below the hospital. The ward was on the 15th floor, where a person in a hospital gown was hanging by the window. It was Wen Shuai. Actually, I didn't feel much emotion inside, but I still recorded the video and sent it to Sufiran. Whether Wen Shuai truly wants to die or is just emotionally manipulating, that's between the two of them. It has nothing to do with me. I just don't want to see Wen Shuai die so soon. After all, compared to death, living is the harder ordeal. When we rushed to the ward, Wen Shuai was sitting entirely on the windowsill. With the window wide open, he could fall straight down with just a slight lean backward. My mother spoke her mind into my ear. This child's legs aren't. How did he even get up there? My dad nudged my mom's arm. What kind of time is this to be saying such things? Wen Shuai, listen to Uncle Qiao and come down quickly. You're still young. There's no hurdle you can't overcome. Wen Shuai's face was full of brokenness as he pointed at his own leg. Like this, what's the point of me living anymore? I sent another video to Sufiran and said, if you don't want to carry a human life on your conscience for the rest of your days, come here quickly. Aunt Sue anxiously slapped her thigh. Son, come down. Your life is just beginning. What does it matter if you lose your legs? Our family is well off. Your parents can support you. Come down quickly. Wen Shuai broke down and demanded, How am I supposed to live? I'll never be able to stand up again in this lifetime. Xiao Sui Sui can still go to the university she loves. Everyone else still has endless possibilities. Only I have to spend my whole life in a wheelchair. Mom, Dad, I really don't want to live anymore. Let me go. You're still young. You can have another child. Just make sure they don't end up like me. Wen Shuai spoke as he leaned backward, but amidst everyone's exclamations, Sufiran arrived belatedly. Wen Shuai, how dare you? Wen Shuai froze. Sufiran supported herself on her knees, gasping for breath in great heaves. Don't jump. Please don't jump. I know what you want. I promise. I'm willing to stay with you. A flicker of joy flashed in Wen Shuai's eyes, but it was soon replaced by desolation. He shook his head. I know you've already. I don't want to hold you back. Sufiran tentatively took step after step forward. It was all because I didn't have the courage to face you before, yet couldn't forget you, so I found someone else. Wen Shuai, I still want to be with you. The moment Wen Shuai was rescued, Aunt Sue collapsed to the ground, wailing uncontrollably. My mother patted her shoulder sympathetically. There, it's all right now. Is that so? But the anger and resentment in Su Firan's eyes clearly didn't look like nothing's wrong. 7. I went home to prepare for summer camp, while my parents still kept going to the hospital from time to time. They said with Su Firan around, when Shua finally started taking his treatment seriously. I've watched Wen Shua grow up since childhood, and I've never seen him so obedient before. Sigh, it would be best if those two could stay like this forever, but that girl doesn't seem like the type who can hold on, I said while packing food into my bag. Why do you care so much, Mom? You should be checking on me instead. I'm leaving tomorrow. Only then did my mom start helping me pack my things, but after a while, she hesitated and said, Sway, why does Mom feel like you and Wen Shua have grown much more distant recently? Before, weren't you? I paused and said earnestly, Mom, please stop talking about childhood sweethearts anymore. Since Wen Shua and Su Firan are already together, I should keep my distance even if our relationship was once very close. I made my stance clear, and my mom didn't ask any further questions that very evening. Aunt Sue and Uncle Wen came to our house to complain, seeing my suitcase and bag. Aunt Sue was momentarily stunned. Sway, are you going somewhere? I nodded. I plan to apply for the aerospace program, so I'm cramming some knowledge during summer break first. Aunt Sue nodded, tears welling up in her eyes before she could speak. When the crowd thinned, she suddenly grabbed my hand and said, Sway, go study the major you love. It's Wen Shua who wronged you. You and Wen Shua grew up together since childhood. Even Auntie can't bear to see you being held back by him. I froze for a moment, at a loss for how to respond. In my past life after marriage, Auntie Sue and Uncle Wen were actually always very good to me. Having a son like Wen Shua who's been love-struck for 2 lifetimes, they've really had it rough. I couldn't bear to hurt Aunt Sue, so I tactfully said, Wen Shua and Su Firan are deeply in love, and they will eventually have a happy ending, with someone taking good care of him. Perhaps Wen Shua will gradually recover. Auntie, please set your mind at ease. After all, in my past life, it was through my care that Wen Shua managed to stand up again. But Aunt Sue shook her head. Wen Shua won't let us get close, and Su Firan is just a child who doesn't know how to care for others. Within just a few days, Wen Shua developed bedsores. This was expected. In my past life, I would wipe Wen Shua's body twice a day and massage his muscles once, only I knew the exhaustion involved. It's perfectly normal that Su Firan couldn't manage it. The next day I went straight to summer camp. Everything related to space fascinates me. I was voraciously absorbing all kinds of knowledge. This time I must make up for last time's regret no matter what. Wen Shua had been completely pushed out of my mind. It wasn't until 10 days later, when I was preparing to go home to check my grades, that I found out Su Firan had actually gotten engaged to Wen Shua. Engagement is a happy occasion. Why do you all look so gloomy? My parents shook their heads one after another. Do you think an engagement is something decided so casually? My mother held up 3 fingers. It was your Uncle Wen who promised a dowry of 3 million, plus all of Su Firan's university expenses in exchange. I raised an eyebrow, but quickly came to terms with it. It's simply a case of the biter bit. 8 That evening, our family of 3 sat neatly in front of the computer, eagerly waiting to check the results at the exact moment they were released. The moment I saw the total score of 703, tears of excitement streamed down my face. Mom, I can study aerospace engineering. I can do it. I could have done it all along. My parents couldn't understand what I was saying, just nodding frantically along. In my past life, when I discovered Wen Shua treated me like a maid while paying extravagantly for Su Firan to be his companion, I found an opportunity to bring this up with him. But Wen Shua just looked me up and down, then dragged me in front of a mirror. Look at yourself. You're dry, split ends and hands swollen like radishes. What else could you be but a nanny? Besides, you studied nursing. Isn't that just being a glorified maid? If not a nanny, would you even consider wiping my waist in a hospital? I shouted emotionally. Didn't I study nursing to help you recover? Without me, would you have gotten better? Wen Shua, how can you be so heartless? My body trembled with rage. If it weren't for saving you back then, the past 10 years were what Wen Shua least wanted to mention. He slammed the table angrily and demanded, back then, how many more times must you bring it up? Even if you had taken the exam back then, could you have scored high? Could you have gotten into the aerospace program? Xiao Sway, I see you're quite the dreamer. That night, my heart was utterly shattered by Wen Shua, but my 703-point score proved I could really do it. I always could. Early the next morning, I dragged my parents out to celebrate, but right then, they ran into Su Firan pushing Wen Shua out in his wheelchair. Even while turning to lock the door, Wen Shua couldn't tear his gaze away from Su Firan. With her around, Wen Shua's mood noticeably improved. Uncle, Aunt, Sway, where are you all going? The parents were afraid that celebrating openly would hurt Wenshua's feelings, so they just made up a random excuse, going to her grandmother's place for dinner. What about you? Wenshua's emotions were written all over his face. Firen is taking me to the hospital for a follow-up check. As soon as the words fell, Su Firen took the initiative to ask me, the college entrance exam results are out. How many points did Sui Sui score? In my peripheral vision, Wenshua also looked at me with a faint smile on my lips. I calmly said, 703 points. In my peripheral vision, a trace of desolation actually flashed across Wenshua's face. Su Firen's face showed no extra expression as she said, I can also go to the school I like to study dance now. Classes start on September 5th. At this, Wenshua completely lost his smile given his current situation. Forget about going to university, he couldn't even be left alone without someone by his side, but Su Firen was different. Could someone who fits in seamlessly really stay by Wenshua's side for a lifetime? 9. Before school started, my parents held a college celebration banquet for me, and Uncle Wen's family was naturally on the guest list. I was admitted to Beihang University. Both the school and the program were my top choices. On the day of the celebration banquet, Wenshua sat silently in his wheelchair lost in thought, while I was surrounded by relatives and friends chatting and laughing. When the classmates clamored for a group photo at the end, everyone eagerly gathered together. Only Wenshua remained motionless, gripping the wheelchair armrests tightly. Wenshua, come up here, aren't you two the closest? Sui Sui is leaving for university. Exactly, everyone knows you two grew up together since childhood. Come on up. Wenshua pursed his lips and remained still, but two boys ran down and without a word moved him along with his wheelchair up to the platform. It's just that back then, he was the wealthy and handsome top student who was always the center of attention wherever he went. This time, no one gave him the central C-spot. Later, when I looked at the group photo, I realized Wenshua had been placed at the very edge of the crowd on the night before school started. Wenshua actually came knocking on my door. After opening the door, I instinctively looked straight ahead, and only when I saw no one at eye level did I lower my gaze to see Wenshua sitting in a wheelchair. He smiled self-deprecatingly. I guess from now on, you'll only be looking down at me. Can we go out for a walk? I wanted to refuse, but my mother whispered behind me, Wenshua has been cooped up at home for so long, and he's finally willing to go out. Please accompany him for a walk, a habit from my past life. Whenever I see a wheelchair, I feel the urge to push it. I forcibly withdrew my hand and walked ahead. The roads in the villa district were spacious, with Wenshua sitting in a wheelchair walking alongside me. Congratulations on getting into your favorite school. I politely yet distantly said thank you, but then Wenshua immediately took out his exam admission ticket. He smiled bitterly. What a coincidence. The school you're going to is the one I wanted to attend, but I'll never have the chance now. Xiao Sui Sui. Please take my exam admission ticket with you too. This is all I can do in this lifetime. He handed me his exam admission ticket, but I didn't take it. Maybe someday Su Firen will take you to fulfill that dream. I absent-mindedly swatted at non-existent mosquitoes by my legs. There are too many mosquitoes. Let's head back first. Wenshua felt a momentary loneliness, but didn't say anything as they walked. Wenshua gradually fell behind. I frowned and turned to look, only then noticing his wheelchair was stuck on a rock. When our eyes met, his face was full of embarrassment, yet he stubbornly said, don't mind me. It's just a small rock. I've got this. Okay. I nodded and went straight home. 10. Su Firen and I started school on the same day at the high-speed rail station. We happened to run into Wenshua and Su Firen saying goodbye. Wenshua secretly slipped Su Firen a bank card. Don't let yourself suffer at school. After receiving the money, Su Firen couldn't wait to enter the station, prompting Wenshua to quickly add one last remark. If you have time, remember to come back. To this, Su Firen gave no response. College life turned out to be far more fulfilling than I had imagined. Plus, it's a major I'm genuinely interested in, making my college life feel incredibly joyful. I think my past self must have been completely insane to think I gave up so much just for a man this time. I've experienced everything I never got to do in my previous life. After the semester ended, I specifically went abroad to skydive before returning home. Etsu came to my house again that night, anxiously asking, Sui Sui, have all universities gone on break during this period? Firen still hasn't come back yet. I raised an eyebrow. It's already been a month-long holiday. I even went abroad for a trip and came back. Auntie, Su Firen and I don't go to the same school. Maybe there's some special situation on her side. Aunt Su nodded with a worried expression. Auntie doesn't want to keep this child trapped either, but she was the one who initially proposed being willing to get engaged. Our family fulfilled all our promises, yet now she's nowhere to be found. That child Wenshua is stubborn to a fault. He's lost over 20 pounds these past few months. Sigh. Frowning, I reluctantly asked a classmate to inquire about Sue Fearon's school at Auntie Sue's pleading. The answer we got was, that university had let out half a month earlier than ours. My mom was frantic. I have to tell Aunt Sue, if you don't want to get engaged, then don't. Wenshua has been waiting at home day and night. What kind of situation is this? I stopped my mom. I'll never do a favor that ends up causing me trouble again. After another week or so, Sue Fearon finally came back. She was dressed head to toe in designer brands, looking every bit the socialite according to my mom. Wenshua finally started showing some smiles, but over the next month, Wenshua grew increasingly haggard. Uncle Wen and Aunt Sue seemed to have aged 10 years in just 6 months. Uncle Wen, who had never bowed his back before, even came to my house to borrow money. My father didn't hesitate to take out a card. Old Wen, what on earth happened? How did it come to this? Our family and the Wen family were on equal footing. Even if something happened to Wenshua, they would never be reduced to having no money. Uncle Wen let out a long sigh and only spoke after a long while. Sue Fearon said she wants to study abroad, but the cost is staggering. If we don't support her, she'll call off the engagement. Wenshua's condition has been unstable. During a recent hospital checkup, it suddenly worsened. The doctor said they might have to amputate. Wenshua's mother and I have truly reached our limits. Even after Uncle Wen left, my parents were still shaking their heads in disbelief. Is Wenshua really that inseparable from Sue Fearon? The family fortune is almost drained. I asked curiously, is Uncle Wen's company not doing well? My parents sighed in unison. Wenshua's unlicensed driving incident was exposed, and your Uncle Wen's company suffered greatly. They just paid a hefty penalty not long ago. I nodded. When I tossed and turned unable to sleep at night, I came across Sue Fearon's social media post. She had updated many photos and videos of herself dancing, but looking at her dance partner, I couldn't help feeling somewhat familiar. 11. Not long after, I coincidentally ran into Sue Fearon and a guy on the street. The two were even holding hands, appearing extremely intimate. Only when I saw him in person did I suddenly remember. This guy was actually from our high school. When Sue Fearon glanced in this direction, I instinctively hid and then secretly followed her. Fearon, would the Wen family really be willing to give you 6 million? That's no small amount. You really dare to ask for the moon, don't you? Sue Fearon coquettishly retorted. You're one to talk. Doesn't that 6 million include your share? Don't you want to go abroad for further studies with me? As long as that cripple Wenshua can't live without me, his family has no choice but to accept their fate. Luckily you made that bet with me back then, to see if Wenshua would abandon his college entrance exams to chase after me if I broke up with him. That's what made him a cripple. All our current happiness is built upon Wenshua's disability. The boy smiled, kissed Sue Fearon on the cheek, and even patted her, but I froze in shock. Sue Fearon actually did it on purpose. Wenshua would resort to emotional blackmail to be with the one he loved, while Sue Fearon would gamble with someone's legs at stake. They are truly a match made in heaven. Wenshua got what he deserved, but Aunt Sue and Uncle Wen were the real victims who got dragged into this. It wasn't until evening that the man brought Sue Fearon back. I glanced at the car. It was worth millions. So the Wen family's money was all spent on this man, spending money like flowing water. No wonder the Wen family went bankrupt. Sue Fearon froze when she saw me, a flash of guilt crossing her face. She wanted to return directly to the Wen family, but I blocked her path. What are you doing? I couldn't be bothered to waste words with her, so I got straight to the point and showed the photos I'd just taken. Wenshua might be a fool, but Uncle Wen and Aunt Sue certainly aren't. If you insist on demanding an exorbitant amount of money, don't blame me for making everything you've gained go up in smoke. Sue Fearon froze for a moment, anger flashing across her face. Mind your own business. Wenshua is just a cripple now. Why should I, a young girl in the prime of my life, waste my whole life on a cripple? Besides, it was him who forced me into this by threatening suicide. He brought this upon himself. But what about Wenshua's parents? I hissed in a suppressed voice. Did Wenshua's parents deserve to be drained dry by you too? They should have been enjoying their retirement peacefully like my parents, but now they're reduced to bowing and borrowing money from everyone because of your mess. I don't care how you treat Wenshua, but you're not allowed to ruin Uncle Wen and Aunt Sue like this. After delivering my warning, I turned around and went straight home. 2 days later, Aunt Sue finally showed a faint smile on her face. She returned the card she borrowed from our family. Wenshua has been begging Fearon these past 2 days, and she agreed not to go abroad for now. Thank you all. We probably Won't need this money for the time being. My parents both breathed a sigh of relief. It seems Su Firan was genuinely afraid of losing the Wen family's cash cow. I didn't listen further. This was all the help I could offer them. With school starting soon, I'd been busy meeting up and dining with high school friends every day, but when I returned that evening, I saw Wen Shui sitting motionless in his wheelchair outside. I was genuinely startled for a moment when I saw how gaunt he looked. He caught my subtle change of expression and gave a self-deprecating smile. Did I scare you? I really haven't had much appetite lately. Instead of answering, I glanced at the lit lights in their house. What are you sitting here for? Wen Shui looked at me, his eyes gradually turning red. I frowned. If there's nothing else, I'll head back. Don't go. For some reason, Wen Shui's voice actually choked up slightly as he spoke. My parents went to the company and won't be back tonight because of work. Su Firan brought his dance partner over to our house to hang out. I raised my eyebrows, somewhat surprised by how bold Su Firan was being, but on the surface, he calmly responded with a sound. So what are you trying to say? Wen Shui's Adam's apple bobbed, and the words he spoke utterly shocked me. Sway, if I break off the engagement with Su Firan, can we be together? I've seen clearly now. Su Firan never had genuine feelings for me. Only you and I share true sincerity. Suppressing a cold laugh, I asked, and then, Wen Shui's eyes lit up. As if seeing hope, he said urgently, I believe my leg will definitely recover as long as it gets proper care. Sway, how about you go study nursing? Once my leg heals, I'll start a business and make sure you live more gloriously than now. With every word Wen Shui spoke, my heart grew colder. By the end, I was almost certain that Wen Shui had been reborn just like me. The originally tranquil night suddenly turned gloomy, and a bolt of lightning struck down. Wen Shui's face looked frenzied under the lightning's glow. Sway, we'd definitely have a better life together than now. I know you like me. Let's give it a try. Okay, I laughed. It's you who would drain my value. You're the one who'd live better than now, aren't you? You succeed in your startup, then say I'm just a nanny. Wen Shui, why should I give up aerospace studies just to help you recover? Wen Shui froze completely. You too. I took a step closer, enunciating each word deliberately. Wen Shui, you've gotten your wish in this lifetime. A flash of devastation crossed Wen Shui's face as he stood frozen in place, as if struck by lightning. I'm now a top-tier university aerospace student, destined to become an astronaut. But what about you? A disabled person like you. How could you ever match up to me? After saying this, I turned around and went home. The moment I closed the door, thunder cracked outside with a sharp clap. Xiao Sway, I was wrong last time. Sway, my mom walked by with a glass of milk. Is someone calling you outside? No, it's thunder. You must have misheard. As soon as the words were spoken, rain began pouring down outside with a pitter-patter. Wen Shui was drenched in the rain, straining to turn the wheels, but the wheelchair remained immobile. 13. Early the next morning, my parents were ready to take me to the high-speed rail station to return to school, but the car had only driven a few dozen meters when both police cars, 110, and ambulances, 120, entered our neighborhood. It's been such an eventful time lately. What's happened to which family now? When I saw the police car parked outside Wen Shui's house, my dad slammed on the brakes. It's the Wen family. My right eye twitched as I suddenly remembered what Wen Shui said last night. My parents went to the company. They have something to attend to and won't be back tonight. Su Firan brought his dance partner home to hang out. The police broke down the door, and paramedics carried out a white-shrouded body on a stretcher. My mother's legs gave way, but fortunately I caught her. Who died? Just as the words were spoken, Wen Shui and another boy were carried out alive. The relief my parents had just felt vanished instantly. Who is this boy? Where are old Wen and his wife? Call them now. I was about to say that Uncle Wen and his wife weren't here, but as Wen Shui was carried past me, he grabbed my sleeve and only then did I see the blood covering his entire body. Let go. The medical staff tried with all their might but couldn't pry his hands open, so they had no choice but to look at me helplessly. He has multiple stab wounds. The bleeding won't stop. His organs might be punctured. We can't afford to waste any time now. Why don't you come along in the car? I gave Wen Shui a cold look, refusing to be morally coerced, and directly took off my own sun-protective jacket. Wen Shui was sent to the hospital, and my parents called to inform Uncle Wen's family. Meanwhile, my parents went to the police station to help understand the situation. The man was sobbing uncontrollably in the police station. I really didn't mean to kill anyone. I was just defending myself. That cripple was a lunatic. He didn't want to live anymore and tried to kill us in the middle of the night. If I hadn't been a light sleeper, I would have been killed for sure. This is so unfair. I swear I didn't intend to kill anyone. The policeman slammed the table angrily. Then why would he try to kill you for no reason? The man fell silent for a moment before spouting nonsense. In their past life, when Shua's first love Su Firan broke up with him on the day of the college entrance exam. No, I scoffed. You don't even know Wen Shua, so why would you spend the night at his place? The police officer's gaze was sharp. Leniency for those who confess, severity for those who resist. If you want probation, you'd better come clean. Only after intense coercion and inducements did he finally reveal his relationship with Su Firan. It was just last night when Wen Shua's parents weren't home. Su Firan wanted some excitement, so she brought me back. The two of us did it right in front of Wen Shua. But who knew that cripple would have such a fiery temper? Instead of sleeping at night, he actually crawled over trying to kill someone. Look, I'm injured too. My mother went mad with anger upon hearing this and immediately gave that person a thorough scolding. Meanwhile, Uncle Wen's call also came through. Old Qiao, is Sui Sui at home? The doctor said Wen Shua's resuscitation failed, and now he's lying here calling Sui Sui's name. Could you let Sui Sui come see Wen Shua one last time? The boy, he refuses to let go. I frowned and shook my head at Dad. It was the first time he'd lied to Uncle Wen. Sorry, old Wen, Sui Sui has already taken the high-speed train back to school. Sorry, Uncle Wen and Auntie Sue, I never want to see Wen Shua again. I returned to school very soon, and that evening when I arrived, my mom sent me a message. Wen Shua is still holding on, still keeps muttering something about being sorry. Ah, what kind of fate is this for Uncle Wen and Aunt Sue? At 5 a.m. the next morning, my mom's message came through again. Let's go. Pressing my lips together, I hesitated before replying. Please comfort Uncle Wen and Aunt Sue properly. As for Wen Shua, may we never meet again in this life or the next for years. Later, I graduated with my bachelor's degree and was admitted to a combined master's and doctoral program. No matter what, I fulfilled my lifelong dream in this lifetime. The end. Story 2. Since I found out that the servant's son liked me, I began to isolate and loathe him. Finally, I managed to find something against Zhong Yu and drove him out of the house. 7 years later, the Yu family went bankrupt. In a desperate situation, I had no choice but to beg this rising business tycoon, Zhong Yu. Once again, surprisingly, Zhong Yu didn't make things difficult for me. On the contrary, he actually helped the Yu family out. I stayed by his side and tried my best to gradually heal the previous rift between us until one day, an accident occurred. The car plunged off a cliff. When I opened my eyes again, I found myself back in high school, during the worst period of our relationship. At that moment, I was doing everything I could to drive Zhong Yu out of the house. Look at him, he's a pervert, so shameless. How can such a person still stay in our house? Mom and Dad, kick him out now. When I opened my eyes again, my head spun. The shouts I had just made still echoed in my ears. No one said a word. The villa was filled with an eerie silence. My father and mother looked at each other, seemingly taken aback by the scene. A pile of letters was scattered on the floor. They were the love letters Zhong Yu had written to me in my previous life. I suddenly remembered that this was the time when I was about to graduate from senior high school 7 years ago. I had gone to great lengths and finally found something to use against Zhong Yu, and then I drove him out of the Yu family. Zhong Yu was the son of our family servant. He was outstanding, intelligent, and good-looking, but for some reason, I disliked him very much. Perhaps it was because we lived together, and my classmates always liked to joke about us, asking if he was the child bridegroom arranged for me by my parents. What's more, he refused to clarify. Despite his cold personality, he was always much gentler and softer towards me than towards others. In my previous life, I distanced myself from him, mocked him. I even asked my mother several times to drive him out, but he never got angry. Gradually, he seemed to be truly sad. He talked to me less and less, until I found many diaries and love letters about me in his textbooks. Only then did I know that Zhong Yu had liked me for a long time. Like discovering a huge secret, I gathered the whole family together and then showed the evidence I found. I severely rebuked him, calling him terrible, a pervert, shameless. In fact, the content wasn't too explicit, but my mother had no choice. Finally, she fired Zhong Yu's mother. It was the second semester of senior high school at that time, and because of the transfer, no other school was willing to accept Zhong Yu, so he ended up repeating a year of study. Later, he went to study in a foreign place for college. In my previous life, I thought that was the last time I would see Zhong Yu, but it wasn't. By chance, 7 years later, we met again. At that time, Zhong Yu's business venture was successful. He broke into the circle of business celebrities and became a powerful new business magnate that no one could underestimate. Our family's company, however, was in a slump and on the verge of bankruptcy. With no one willing to help, in desperation, I had to beg Zhongyu for help. To my surprise, he agreed, and he didn't even make any demands. We maintained our communication through an ordinary business partnership, until one business trip, an accident suddenly occurred. The oncoming truck seemed to have a brake failure and crashed straight into us. Zhongyu desperately turned the steering wheel towards me. At the moment of impact, he tightly protected me under his body. Before he died, he reached out and touched my cheek. His voice was dry and filled with sorrow. Xiaohe, you hate me, don't you? But even though you hate me so much, all these years, I still wondered if we could be together one day. He paused and suddenly smiled. But it's so tiring. Loving you is so tiring. If there is a next life, I think I don't want to like you anymore. The rescue came too late. In the end, the crashed truck caught fire. The flames spread violently. I closed my eyes, placed my fingers on Zhongyu's cheek, and whispered, "It doesn't matter. If we could start over, let me come to you." Okay, I never expected that I would return to my high school days, and just a while ago, I had taken out the stack of letters I found in Zhongyu's textbooks and thrown them in front of everyone. My mother came over and took my arm, carefully trying to soothe me. Alas, how could this happen? Although she was always kind-hearted, she loved me the most, so she looked at Zhongyu, then at Zhongyu's mother, and sighed. Since Xiaohe and Zhongyu really can't get along, there's no other way. We'll have to hire someone else. Zhongyu stood in the corner. The dim light cast a lonely shadow over him. He quickly stepped forward, gave a soft and his voice was cold and without the slightest hesitation. He said, "I'm sorry. It's my fault for causing trouble to you. I'll go pack my things now and leave with my mother." He turned around resolutely without even looking at me. This was exactly the same as in my previous life. I suddenly remembered that before he died, he tightly held my hand and said in a very low voice, "It's so tiring, Xiaohe, so tiring. It turns out that loving someone is such a tiring thing." I quickly picked up all the letters, then rushed forward and grabbed his wrist. "Wait, Zhongyu, what I meant was just..." I racked my brain and muttered softly, "It's better to focus on studying before the college entrance examination. Can we talk about this after the exam?" I lowered my voice for the last sentence, so only the two of us could hear it. Zhongyu suddenly turned his head and stared at me intently, his expression full of doubt and disbelief. After a long while, he pursed his lips and said to me word by word in a low voice, "Yuhi, I also have feelings. Why do you think that after you've trampled on my heart once, I'll offer it up again for you to humiliate?" He bit his lip, and his tone became much more decisive. "Now and in the future, I don't want to be with you anymore." In the end, it was my father who settled the matter. He thought highly of Zhongyu. Not only because of his excellent academic performance, always ranking first in the grade, but also because, although he was just in high school, he had already shown great talent in business and investment. Sometimes, his sense in strategic business decisions was more acute than that of some professional managers. He really wanted to nurture such a promising young talent. In my previous life, if I hadn't made such a fuss, he would have turned a blind eye. Now, seeing me silently pick up the letters and stop making a scene, he coughed twice and made a decision. "What's all this talk about leaving? It's not a big deal, just a quarrel between kids." "Nonsense." He walked over and patted Zhongyu on the shoulder, his tone much more amiable. "Xiaohe doesn't know what she's saying. Don't take it to heart. She's not good at studying. You should help her more. As for the rest, we trust you two to be sensible. Let's talk about it later." "Okay." Zhongyu seemed to want to say something, but my father simply waved his hand, ending the small family chaos I had caused. I knew Zhongyu wouldn't leave. He had always respected my father. Even out of respect for my father, he wouldn't leave immediately. Moreover, if he left now, there were many other things to consider, such as his mother's job, his studies, and the college entrance examination. A wave of self-blame welled up inside me, overwhelming me. I thought of my previous life. After the Yu family fell, I went to beg Zhongyu for help. At that time, I was prepared to be humiliated, but he didn't do anything. After the investment in the Yu family was underway, by chance, we were both a bit drunk, and I casually mentioned, "Zhongyu, to be honest, I thought you would hate me and pretend not to know me." Zhongyu was stunned for a moment. He looked up at me, then poured himself a glass of wine and smiled. He nodded and said, "Yeah, I thought so too, but Yuhi, 7 years have passed. I also want to let go." Zhongyu said the last sentence with great hesitation and pain. It must have been a difficult process for him to convince himself to forget everything that had happened in the past 7 years. "And now, I want to make things clear once and for all. We agreed that this time, I would be the one to chase after him." he wouldn't have to suffer as much as he did in the previous life. That night, I secretly went to the third floor of the villa, Zhongyu's room. After standing at the door for a while, I finally mustered up the courage and knocked gently, but the door wasn't fully closed and opened by itself. Zhongyu was sitting at the desk, looking through textbooks and exercise books. When he heard the sound, he quickly turned around, but when he saw it was me, his face darkened immediately, and his voice was extremely cold. Yuhi, what are you doing here? Did I invite you in? In my previous life, our relationship had already started to improve, but now, we were back to the worst period of our relationship. I couldn't get used to his current cold attitude for a moment and stood there, stunned. The words I had prepared got stuck in my throat and I couldn't say them. Finally, after a long while, I managed to say, Zhongyu, I'm really bad at math. Can you help me take a look? As soon as I said this, I regretted it. The reason was simple. When Zhongyu used to follow me around, he had mentioned several times that he wanted to help me with my studies, but I had always scolded him back. I mocked him with all kinds of harsh words, like mind your own business, don't think you're so great just because you're good at studying, even if you get the first place, you still have to work for my family, right? I kept scolding him until he no longer dared to approach me and gradually became more reserved and silent. Sure enough, when I brought up the topic of tutoring again, Zhongyu curled his lips. His already impatient expression was tinged with a hint of confusion and sarcasm. He pushed the textbook aside, stood up, and walked slowly towards me. You were the one who wanted to keep a distance, and you were the one who didn't want to talk to me. Yuhi, weren't these all your words? What's wrong with you? Did you come up with a new and better way to deal with me and drive me out? Zhongyu stood in front of me, frowning, looking disappointed. I suddenly realized that for the 18-year-old, newly adult Zhongyu, at this moment, it was very difficult for him to trust me. This realization made me blurt out, no. I took a deep breath, rubbed my eyes, and finally said the words I had wanted to say since I came up here, one by one. No, Zhongyu, I don't want to deal with you. I just want to apologize for everything I've done in the past, including the verbal abuse, the unnecessary coldness and humiliation, and so much more. I've grown up and I'm not as naive as I used to be, with all kinds of emotions swirling inside me. My next words were almost choked with sobs. So can you give me a chance? Can you try to forgive me? These words came from the bottom of my heart. So Zhongyu, can you give me another chance? I looked up at him softly. Zhongyu turned his face to the side. The previous expressions of weariness and suspicion seemed to be gradually fading away. He picked up the notebook he had been looking at earlier from the desk and threw it into my arms. If you want to improve your math, the knowledge points in this notebook are enough. Then he opened the door. Just as I was holding the exercise book, not knowing how to thank him, he made a gesture of invitation. He still didn't look at me, and his tone was still indifferent. There's no need to talk about forgiveness or not. I've already figured it out. You're a young lady, and you have the right to act willfully. It's only natural that you wouldn't like someone like me. Holding the doorknob, his cold gaze fell on me, making me feel a little ashamed. So you don't need to apologize to me, and don't come to me out of pity anymore. What does it feel like to be rejected twice by the same person in one day? Well, let me tell you, I really wanted to find a place to bury myself. After Zhongyu closed the door, I almost ran back to my room with my face covered. Then I threw myself onto the bed, and the phone in my pocket fell out and rolled aside. Just then, someone called. The screen lit up. It was Lin Rua, my best friend. We were deskmates in high school and had a very close relationship. She went abroad for college and later married into an old, established wealthy family. I heard that the family had very strict rules for daughters-in-law, so we didn't contact each other much. When the Yu family declined, I once thought about asking her for help, but considering that she wasn't happy either, I gave up the idea in the end. Seeing her name now, I was jolted awake. I immediately sat up and answered the phone. Yuhi, what are you doing? Lin Rua's voice came from the other end of the phone. She was probably outside, and it was a bit noisy around her. I'm at a bar. Xian's brother just closed a big deal and rented out the whole place. Come and have fun with us. In my previous life, I did go there, but now, just reborn and having gone through all this, I really wasn't in the mood. Lin Rua walked to a quieter place, and her voice became much clearer. Xiaohe, what's wrong? You sound unhappy. Did something happen? After 2 lifetimes, there are some things I can only talk to her about. After a moment of hesitation, I covered my face and let out a sigh. Rua, do you know that Zhongyu rejected me twice today? As soon as this name came up, Lin Rua's voice almost deafened my ears. She let out several exclamations of disbelief and asked in confusion, Zhongyu, Yuhi, Are you crazy or am I? I clearly remember that you hated him very much. Don't tell me you're that kind of heartless girl who ignored him when he was chasing after you, but then noticed his goodness when he turned cold towards you. I leaned back and closed my eyes. Damn it. Why did her words hit so hard? The worst part was that I couldn't refute them. Fine, fine. I grabbed my hair, feeling resigned. I was in the wrong, but you know how terrible my language skills are. That apology was already the best I could do. I don't know what to do next. Lin Rua was silent for a moment, seemingly deep in thought. Then stop trying to apologize. Zhongyu is willing to help you with your studies, Yuhi. Isn't there anything you can do for him to fix the relationship? What did Zhongyu need? He was excellent in studies, good looking, and the company he founded caused a sensation in the entire tech industry. He successfully became one of the new business tycoons of the next generation. His life seemed to be going smoothly, and he didn't seem to lack anything. No, there was one thing. Perhaps. I remembered that he had been planning to start a business since high school, but he had always lacked a crucial patent. It wasn't until college, when he met more people, that he learned the patent was actually in the hands of a university professor. Unfortunately, he was a step too late, and it was sold to his competitor in my previous life. When Zhongyu and I were on a business trip and had a car accident, we were on our way to find an alternative to this patent. After all, it was still needed for the U Group's investment deal. Now that I was back in the past and could start over, if I could get this patent first, Zhongyu's business venture would probably go much more smoothly. At least, he wouldn't have to spend time running around looking for an unproven alternative. Thinking of this, I urgently sent a WeChat message to Lin Rua, asking for help. Rua, I remember your mom is a university teacher. Does she know a lot of people in the academic circle? Can you do me a favor and find someone for me? Lin Rua's mother was a well-known professor, and she had many friends engaged in research. I guessed it wouldn't take long to find out the identity of that professor, but I didn't expect that the first person to contact me about this wasn't Lin Rua, but Xian, the neighbor who lived next door to me. Xian and I grew up together. Technically, we were childhood sweethearts, and our relationship used to be very good, but after experiencing my previous life, I really didn't want to use this term to describe him. The Xia family's business was actually a bit larger than the Yu family's, so in my previous life, when the Yu family went bankrupt, the first person I thought of asking for help was Xian, but he didn't agree immediately. Instead, he lit a cigarette and suddenly asked me a question. Xiaohe, do you know the Chen family? I'm engaged to the Chen family's only daughter. We'll get married next month. Probably. I looked up, confused. The Chen family seemed to be a prominent family from the south, and I hadn't had much contact with them. But this seemed irrelevant to me asking him for help. Right. Xian took a big puff of his cigarette, stared straight at me, and suddenly laughed. I used to think we would be together. Xiaohe, this kind of marriage is just for show. We can each do our own thing, if you don't mind the false reputation, and you're willing to stay by my side. He didn't finish his sentence because I had already stood up, picked up the coffee on the table, and poured it over his head. Xia. And when did you become such a despicable person? I originally didn't want to pay attention to Xian, but after school, he directly blocked me outside our classroom. I couldn't avoid him, so I had to walk with him to the side of the corridor. Standing there impatiently, I gritted my teeth and asked him in a low voice, what exactly do you want? On the other side, Xian looked confused. He was stunned for a while, seemingly unable to understand how, in just a few days, my attitude towards him had changed so drastically. Are you upset about something? You didn't reply to my text messages, Xian complained, but he still wore that gentlemanly mask on his face. He waved a business card in his hand at me and leaned towards me with a smile. But don't be angry with me. I heard that Xiaohe was looking for someone, so I immediately asked my family to help. How are you going to thank me? I blinked and quickly understood. The business card in Xian's hand was the contact information of the professor I was looking for. Probably that night at the bar, Lin Rua had mentioned it casually, and he had remembered it. But even so, I didn't want to owe Xian a favor. Moreover, the request he made was very annoying. Isn't the son of your family's servant very good at studying? He can even predict exam questions. Why don't you get his notes, and we can study them together? Crazy, I thought with a frown, before I could refuse. I glanced to the side. Suddenly, I saw Zhongyu. He was holding a stack of test papers. He had just come out of the teacher's office. As he passed by, his gaze seemed to casually rest on us for a few seconds, and then it moved away. I didn't know how much he had seen or heard, but his expression was as if we were the most insignificant strangers he had ever met. I didn't expect to run into Zhongyu, since school was already over. I thought he had left long ago. I pushed Xian aside forcefully and chased after Zhongyu. Zhongyu, I gently tugged at his sleeve and took a breath. Why? Pretend you didn't see me, let's go home together. Being pulled by me, Zhongyu finally stopped. When he turned his head to look at me, there was a hint of weariness in his expression, and his voice was deep. What do you want? If there's nothing else, stop following me. Miss you. Isn't your childhood sweetheart waiting to walk home with you? Go to him. I was stunned, in my previous life, to distance myself from Zhongyu. Even though we lived together, when the driver came to pick us up from school, I would deliberately go to the Xie family's car and let Zhongyu go home alone. Over time, he understood and would rather take the bus than walk with me in this new life. I didn't want Zhongyu to misunderstand again, so I took this opportunity to explain clearly. I have nothing to do with Xian. I don't like him. We're not childhood sweethearts, and we're not even very good friends. He came to me because he heard from Lin Rua that I was looking for someone. Before I could finish, Zhongyu interrupted me. Why are you telling me this? Don't flatter yourself. Do you think I care about the relationship between you two, Yuhi? Whether you fall in love, get engaged, or get married in the future, it has nothing to do with me. I really have no interest at all. He emphasized the last sentence very strongly. Actually, just now, I had an irrational thought, a little bit of joy. Did Zhongyu care when he saw me standing with another boy? But when he interrupted me and said those last words, it was like a bucket of cold water suddenly poured over me, soaking me completely. It made me wonder if there was any point in my pursuit and persistence until now. In my previous life, Zhongyu said he liked me, but in this life, had his feelings changed? I lowered my eyes dejectedly, forced a smile that seemed indifferent, nodded, waved at him, and stepped back. You're right, I'm a bit annoying, but Mr. Zhong, you've rejected me 3 times. There's a limit to everything, even Yuhi, can get hurt, you know. After saying that, I turned around and ran away with my hands behind my back. There were tears in the corners of my eyes, and I felt like crying, so I ran away quickly, as if escaping. I didn't turn around, so I naturally didn't see that behind me, Zhongyu was tightly gripping the test papers in his hand, his body tense. Could Yuhi really get hurt? He stared at the end of the corridor, his eyes dark. She was lying, he thought. He didn't believe it. Yuhi had always been heartless, and no one could get anything from her. Her pestering him now was just a whim. Once she got what she wanted, she would quickly get bored. But suddenly, an inexplicable sense of panic and restlessness surrounded him, making him uneasy. He suddenly remembered Yuhi's disappointed and sad eyes just now. Wouldn't she really give up on him? I took a taxi and went home. As soon as I entered the villa, the family driver came up and handed me a document bag. At the same time, my phone rang. It was Lin Rua. The moment the video call connected, her voice came through, loud and excited. Xiaohe, did you get the document bag? I found the contact information you wanted, the business card, the professor's information, and a temporary university access pass are all in there. Thoughtful, right? She spoke without pausing. Coincidentally, I heard that this big shot was a bit of a dunce in school and often copied my mom's test papers during exams, so don't worry, as long as it's not illegal, he'll basically help with anything. She winked at me and gave me a meaningful look. I don't believe that when Zhongyu sees our gentle, beautiful, and lovely Xiaohe, who's going all out to think of him, he won't have any feelings at all. Lin Rua hung up the phone. I looked at my phone. Actually, I could have taken it to school tomorrow, but I don't know why. I suddenly really wanted to see him right away. Maybe it was because this phone call connected my previous life and this life. I still wanted to give myself another chance to make things clear in person. After a moment of hesitation, I stopped the driver. Can you take me back to school? I ran back to school, out of breath, with my school bag on my back. Organizing test papers was a troublesome task, and there was also the work of transcribing scores and ranking students. At this time, Zhongyu should still be there. But when I climbed the stairs and stood outside the classroom again, I found it empty. The door was slightly ajar, and the lights were on. But where was he? I scratched my nose and was about to take out my phone to call him when a security guard on patrol walked over. When he saw me, he frowned and asked, "Are you looking for the boy who was just in this classroom? I heard you on the phone. He's already gone down to the playground." I didn't pay attention to any phone call. I only heard the words playground. I thanked the security guard and then turned around and ran downstairs. The night was dark. Only the street lights near the basketball hoops were on, casting a dim yellow light. Zhongyu's tall and slender figure stood out clearly. In front of him stood another girl, I had seen her in my previous life. The first investment in Zhongyu's startup came from her family. She was probably the one who pulled him out of the abyss. I had always thought that in this new life, I was making up for the kindness Zhongyu had shown me. Without the important technology, I would help him contact the professor. If there was a lack of investment, the Yu family could assist, but now it seemed that Zhongyu was right. It was me who was being presumptuous. Zhongyu didn't need me. In my previous life, without me by his side, he still lived a good life, even without the patent and the Yu family's funding. Step by step, although it was slower, he could still reach the top in this new life. Perhaps the best choice was to let him be free and not interfere with each other. Standing in the corner, my mind was filled with these jumbled thoughts, until Zhongyu turned around. Our eyes met. I opened my mouth slightly and smiled as I called his name, Zhongyu. At that moment, his expression suddenly became flustered, and his face turned pale. I don't know why, but after understanding all this, I actually felt relieved. Those feelings of sadness and distress were all gone. I waved at Zhongyu and the girl beside him. In my memories of 2 lifetimes, she was a very gentle girl. She smiled, said a few more words to Zhongyu, then tugged at her schoolbag strap and turned to leave. On the contrary, Zhongyu strode towards me in a hurry. He reached out his hand and then put it down, as if he wanted to grab my wrist, but I took a step back to keep a distance from him. Then, in his somewhat dazed gaze, I handed him the document bag. You probably need this. This professor has in-depth research on this technology. You can try to contact him. Zhongyu suddenly looked up. He held the document bag but didn't open it. He didn't ask me why I knew about the difficulties in his current startup. His voice was a bit hoarse. Okay, I'll work hard, Yuhi. I won't let you down. When he looked up at me, his eyes were shining brightly, as if stars were rising in them. I nodded too. Of course, Zhongyu would succeed sooner or later, but the next moment, I felt sorry because I had chased the other person away because of me. I scratched the tip of my nose and pointed in the direction the girl had left. I have nothing else. Do you want to chase after her? The glimmer of hope that had just emerged faded away in an instant. Zhongyu seemed to stumble and then anxiously followed behind me. Don't get me wrong, he explained awkwardly, his voice strained. There's nothing between her and me. We just met recently because some time ago, I happened to. I interrupted him. There's no need to explain. You don't have to report to me who you date or be friends with. Then, I said earnestly, Zhongyu, I wish you success, happiness, and freedom. May all your wishes come true. After deciding to stop my presumptuous pursuit of Zhongyu, I had a sound sleep. It was the best sleep I'd had since being reborn, peaceful, reassuring, and content. When I woke up the next day and picked up my phone, I found a long string of messages from Zhongyu in our chat window, sent close to midnight. They were about the girl on the basketball court yesterday. It turned out that a few days ago, the girl's father had a sudden heart attack. Zhongyu happened to pass by and took him to the hospital. She came specifically to thank him and invited him to visit her home when he was free. I didn't know about this in my previous life, but thinking about it, it made sense. Otherwise, why would she invest in him without hesitation? There must have been elements of gratitude involved. Looking at this long explanation, I didn't know how to reply. After some thought, I put the phone down again. After all, I had more important things to do now. Study. In my previous life, my grades were mediocre, hovering around the middle of the class. I barely managed to get into an ordinary university. Logically, as someone who had been reborn, I should have forgotten all my high school knowledge. But after the Yu family went bankrupt, in order to save money to pay off debts, I didn't just rely on others for help. I took on several jobs, working long, consecutive hours. Many large companies, upon hearing that I was from the Yu family, refused to interview me out of sheer curiosity. The highest paying part-time job I found was tutoring high school students. To improve my teaching level, I stayed up late watching teaching videos, painstakingly reviewing all the knowledge points I had missed, and even studied them more thoroughly and seriously. This was why, even though the college entrance examination was just a few months away after my rebirth, I could remain calm. When I arrived at the classroom, the previous monthly exam papers were already on my desk. Zhongyu must have spent time organizing them after school yesterday. The class rankings for each subject were written in the top right corner. Lin Rua turned around from the front row, took a look, and sighed. Xiaohe, your math still isn't good. Do you want me to give you the contact information of one of my mom's students? I heard he got a perfect score on the college entrance examination math. This paper was the one I took before being reborn. My level remained the same, so my grades were naturally average. I shook my head, about to decline, when Zhongyu, carrying a stack of books, happened to pass by the aisle. His gaze casually glanced at my paper, then he stopped. You drew the auxiliary line in the wrong place for this big question. There are two relatively simple ways to solve it, and they're less likely to lead to mistakes. As if afraid I would refuse, he coughed twice and glanced at me cautiously. Didn't your father ask me to help you with your studies? Zhongyu's offer really made me hesitate for a moment. At first, I suggested he tutor me to get closer to him, but now, I weighed my options. Should I study on my own or study with Zhongyu? Quickly, I made my decision. I had my own rhythm, and following my own study habits would probably yield better results. I looked up at Zhongyu and smiled, then took out the notebook he gave me last time from my bag and shook my head. I've read this. It's really detailed and well organized. I've learned a lot from it. I think this is enough. Did you quarrel with Zhongyu? Lin Rua peeked at me curiously. A few days ago, you were all about chasing him. Now that you have a legitimate chance to be together, why are you focusing on studying instead? Lin Rua was a dance major. Her family had already paved the way for her future, so she didn't have much pressure from exams. Maybe in the past, I would have thought the same way, but after experiencing my previous life, I knew that to prevent the Yu family from going bankrupt, it wasn't just about avoiding a certain scheme from our competitors or a failed investment. More importantly, I needed to make myself strong enough to truly take over the company when my father got old. This second chance at life was like another opportunity. I rented a 24-hour study room and went there every day after school to study and do exercises. Just like when I was desperate and had nothing after the bankruptcy. During this time, I reviewed past exam papers and completed most of the well-known exercise books on the market. As the exam approached, during the final sprint stage, I opened the notebook Zhongyu gave me. It was meticulously organized, categorizing various methods, common mistakes, and even prediction questions. Most of the content targeted my weak areas as I went through it page by page. At the end, a strangely shaped photo fell out from the loose leaf pages. It must have been put in there by accident, and its edges were slightly yellowed. I bent down to pick it up. It was a group photo of our entire class taken at the beginning of high school. Because of traffic congestion, Zhongyu and I were late and stood at the back of the class. He cut out the other classmates, leaving only the two of us. As far as I could remember, this was the only photo we had together in all those years. On the back, he wrote our names in his usual neat and strong handwriting. Yuhi, Zhongyu, meet at the peak. After the college entrance examination results were announced, Zhongyu maintained his excellent performance, ranking first in the city. It was said that the admissions offices of Tsinghua University and Peking University had already started calling him. Meanwhile, my name also shocked the whole school. As a student who usually ranked in the middle of the class, I had an outstanding performance and ranked second in the school. This score was high enough for me to choose any top major at universities across the country. The school hung up banners, and TV stations wanted to interview me about my study tips. My father was so excited that he almost fainted. He even wanted to create a big poster and send it to every employee in the company. Fortunately, my mother and I reacted quickly and strongly opposed the idea, preventing him from carrying out this impractical plan. Over the 2 lifetimes, some things had changed slightly. For example, Xian didn't perform well in this exam. In the previous life, before the college entrance examination, Zhongyu put the notes and some predicted questions he had compiled into my desk. I didn't want to look at them, and in the end, Xian took them. As a result, one of the big questions was exactly what Zhongyu had predicted, and Xian got more than 10 extra points. This time, due to those 10 points, his college application didn't meet the requirements, and he was dropped to the next batch. I heard his father was very dissatisfied and considering making him repeat a year of study. As for me, I had also decided on the university I wanted to attend. In my previous life, I studied art and design. Although I liked it, it was of little use for running the company. This time, I carefully selected a university with strong business and finance programs and went to Lin Rua's house to fill out the college application form with her. Just before submitting the form, my phone rang. A WeChat message popped up. It was from Zhongyu. We hadn't contacted each other for many days. There was only one line. Have you decided which university to go to? The setting sun shone through the window, casting a warm and pleasant glow. I typed a reply. Yes, I'm going to University A in the north. What about you? He seemed to be typing and deleting his message for a long time. After much thought, he finally sent a message. Ah, what a coincidence. I'm also planning to apply to University A. Its science and engineering programs are among the best in the country, and I'm just planning to develop in that direction. The wind blew in, and outside were large white clouds. It was a beautiful day. Okay, I replied, let's work hard together, Zhongyu. After entering university, the company Zhongyu founded developed even faster than in the previous life. This time, more investment companies noticed him in advance and expressed their intention to invest and cooperate. He also moved his mother out of the Yu family's villa, bought a separate apartment, and hired a caregiver to take care of her. He was very busy, and we didn't see each other often, only occasionally running into each other. In public classes, at grade-level ceremonies, or at alumni gatherings, every time, he seemed to come prepared, bringing me gifts, such as newly launched products from his company or snacks and pastries his mother made at home. The most recent time was at the end of the summer vacation when we agreed to take a plane back to school together. When we reached the school gate, he scratched the tip of his nose and said to me, Xiaohe, my company is preparing for an IPO, I'll be doing a financial interview on TV in a few days, would you watch it? His eyes were bright, suddenly reminding me of that night in high school when I handed him the document bag and the spark that lit up in his eyes at that moment. The interview was scheduled for a week later in the evening. My roommates and I were all in the dormitory. I originally planned to watch the live broadcast on my phone while lying on the bed, but one of my roommates suddenly stood up, held her laptop, and suggested, hey, do you know Zhongyu from the School of Mathematics? I went to a club activity and heard many people talking about him. He not only founded a company but is also preparing for an IPO. There's an interview with him tonight, don't you want to watch? He's the most famous figure among our grade, this is a must-see. That's when I realized how famous Zhongyu had become among our classmates. The others also moved their stools closer. I was halfway up the ladder to my bed, but I had to come back down and join them. When we entered the live streaming room, the school's network malfunctioned. We spent a long time trying to fix it. By the time we finally got connected, it was already the intermission. The host, holding a small notebook, was chatting casually with Zhongyu. There aren't many people who start a business in university, right? I heard you were the top scorer in the city for the college entrance examination. With so much talent, there must be a lot of girls who like you at school. Are you single? One of my roommates commented while munching on sunflower seeds. The host really knows how to get to the point. So many people are curious about Zhongshan's private life. His fans line up from the School of Mathematics all the way to the auditorium. I wonder if he's not interested in girls at all. Could he be gay? On the screen, Zhongyu sat upright. He touched his fingers, thought for a moment, and then smiled. Well, I already have someone I like. I've liked her for a very long time. Suddenly, the dormitory fell silent, and everyone stared intently at the computer screen. The host was taken aback. Haven't you confessed to her? Zhongyu shook his head. Her world seems so far away from mine. She comes from a top-notch family, is beautiful, and popular. I always felt I wasn't good enough for her. I didn't think she could like me either. He smiled, but for a while, she was actually very proactive towards me. But at that time, I was too insecure. I was always afraid it was just a fleeting moment, that she was just having a whim. I thought that only when I became excellent and successful enough could I stand beside her one day. The host nodded and pressed on. What about now? You're already very successful. Zhongyu lowered his head, deep in thought. I don't know, he said softly. I want to call her. Is that okay? Outside the dormitory, the cicadas chirped. Just like the summer after the college entrance examination when he asked me which university I was going to apply to. At that moment, my phone rang. In an instant, everyone in the dormitory turned to look at me. I answered the phone, and Zhongyu's voice came through. Xiaohe, did you watch my interview today? I hummed an affirmation. He paused for a moment, and his voice became hoarse. Then you must have heard what I said just now. Yuhi, would you still accept me? I tapped the table with my fingers. It was a beautiful day, I said. Of course. I've been waiting for you, Zhongyu. I took over the family company, having avoided the investment traps from my previous life. This time, the U group developed very smoothly. I recruited several recent graduates from the university and started training my own confidants and successors. Among them was a girl who was hard-working and dedicated. However, she was always arguing with her boyfriend, causing various relationship problems. When she came to organize my documents, she often asked me, President Yu, why do you and President Zhong have such a good relationship? Don't people who grow up together ever have cold wars? The villa was silent. I had no choice but to give her a rambling account of our high school days. The girl sat on a small stool, resting her chin in her hand, listening intently. She frowned and commented, Sister Yu, you have such a good temper. If my boyfriend said he didn't care who I was with, I'd definitely slap him twice, I laughed. Zhongyu has already eaten his words himself. She looked at me again. So when did you change your mind? When did I change my mind? I knew Zhongyu well, so I was never disappointed or resentful towards him. If I had to pick a turning point, perhaps it was the day we filled out our college application forms and he said he was also going to University A. In the previous life, despite getting a high score after repeating a year of study, he went to a university in the south. I later asked him if University A was the school he originally wanted to apply to. He smiled and looked at me. At that time, I only had one thought. I felt that I had to go to the same place as you, Xiaohe, or I was afraid I would never be able to catch up with you again.